The benediction being longer than the prayer. Ladies and gentlemen, join me in welcoming to the podium my president, your president, and our president, His Excellency, President John Mahama, the man to build the Ghana we want. Thank you very much. Mr. President, the audience, the president.
Hello, information.
Madam.
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, Aide.
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I did call. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about your fast floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg going to
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today. And they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. No, the estimate is real. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster, and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
Hello, information.
Madam.
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, Aide.
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I did call. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco Fast Floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg going to
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today. And they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. No, the estimate is real. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
Well, there must be some criteria when you pass a regulation that will show that if you are coming through academia, what should be the criteria? If you are coming from the bench, what should be the criteria? If you are coming from private practice, what should be the criteria? It will guide, because it is not fair. In his case, he thought that he has stayed at the High Court much longer. Now people are using his short stay at the appeals court and using that. But how long has he served at the High Court? Nobody is talking about that. But the difficulty also here is, Mr. Speaker, he just joined the appeals court, also joined to meet so many senior other colleagues, and all of us is being hot. Mr. Speaker, if we are used to nominees, what we do to this country is simply our judges can sympathize, because through being sympathizing to the president in the corridor of power, you can just get hot from High Court, or you just join the appeals court. Within a short period, you just move to a Supreme Court, and we will not be doing fair to ourselves and the citizenry. Because so, Mr. Speaker, per Article 128(4) of the National Constitution requires individuals of proving integrity. We cannot allow people that the Constitution itself says they must have proven integrity to become sycophants, where they will have to be running on the corridors of power so that they can be appointed. That is the reason why we on the NDC side believe that these two justices must not be approved to go to the Supreme Court. We must send it back to the sender. The president must do what is right. He must advert his mind, as 296, and when he's making the choice, he should have at the back of his mind that he must be fair, he must be candid, and his choice must not be capricious and must not be arbitrary. So, Mr. Speaker, without wasting my time, because, like we said, we have made our mind. These two justices, with all fairness and with all humility, we have no doubt about their individual capacity. We don't hate them, but we are saying that you cannot sit and watch you just jump over others. And then tomorrow, when others want to come, they use you as a yardstick. We don't want to set a bad precedent. And we call on all of us, members of this house, to know that yes, we may be willing to do the presidency bidding, but as we all are gradual.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer.
And a very good morning to you. Thank you very much for choosing us. It's the mother of all talk shows, Alhaji&Alhaji, and we are live from the studios of Pan-African Television in Appiah-Danquah. My name is Senna Nombo. It's a Saturday morning. First, how was your week? Well, you can call it the day after, because it cannot be ignored. And it's one of the issues we will talk about. But before that, let me remind you that we are live on Radio Gold. We are on several other affiliate radio stations. We are also live on Facebook. Pan-African Television is the page you should search for. And then we are live on YouTube, Pan-African TV. Search for those two pages. If you watch us using any of those platforms, you can share your thoughts and views with us. Just type it in a comment section. I will try to read as many as possible. I can assure that I'll read everybody's message. A lot of you keep accusing me of skipping your messages. It's difficult to keep up with the numbers that we get, but do share them. Of course, when it is going, everybody is reading your message as it goes along. Thank you very much once again. And like I said this morning, the topics we advertised. One is the questions over the appointment of the three persons to the Electoral Commission. One particular person has been the highlight of the week. His name is Dr. Appiah-Danquah. Dr. Appiah-Danquah, there are videos trending of him strongly defending the new Patriotic Party in studios of radio stations in the Bono region. So he's a known communicator of the party, but he's one of those who have been appointed as a member of the Electoral Commission. So we'll be discussing that, whether there is something wrong with that, or as long as you're qualified to be a member of parliament as the constitution demands, no matter the position you've taken in the past or the position you take, you can be made a member of the Electoral Commission. Then we're going to talk about the matter of the NDC's True State of the Nation's address that was delivered by the leader of the party and chairman of the party, Mr. Johnson Asiedu Nketsiah. The MPP says he has serious issues with some of the things that were said, but it is still studying the statement to issue a statement in good time. What do you make of the statement that they made? And then we're going to conclude with Dr. Bawumia's appearance in Kumasi in the company of several members of parliament of the new Patriotic Party. It seemed, and it was said, that he had the support of the MPs. But the camp of his closest rival, Alhaji&Alhaji, disagrees. They say all those MPs are taking cash to be there. They are being paid appearance fees. Those were the topics that we had advertised. But now, it seems we have to start with something else that was happening at the time we're putting those topics together. Because yesterday was Thursday. I watched the debate, the beginning, and I watched the one in the night. And it was clear that the National Democratic Congress side in Parliament was not in favor of the appointment of new ministers. They were going to oppose it. They were going to vote against it. And luckily for them, fate smiled yesterday. There was 136 MPs on their side as against 136 MPs on the side of the new Patriotic Party. But when the votes came in, even they, some of them, were shell-shocked because all the nominees were approved by majority. And of course, the numbers show that the majority includes some members of the NDC side or the minority side in Parliament. We'll be discussing that and the implications in our very first discussion because it cannot be ignored. Joining me this morning for our discussion, Honorable Murtala pardon me, Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, who is Member of Parliament for Tamale Central, joining us in the studio. And then we are joined for the first time, Lawyer Appiah-Danquah.
Comrade Lawyer Appiah-Danquah.
Lawyer Appiah-Danquah is a member of the MPP's communication team. He's a private legal practitioner. In fact, my producer has been promising to arrange him for a long time. Every time he's out of town. For the first time, he's available to join us. Nice to meet you.
Pleasure.
Yeah, thank you. And of course, getting closer to me.
Comrade Auntie.
Mrs. Joyce Bawah Mogtari, private legal practitioner and a spokesperson for the John Mahama campaign, joining us this morning. Good morning.
My auntie, who doesn't take care of me anyway.
And I know today you're going to have enormous with nephews like this.
We'll be joined shortly by Nana Ofori-Owusu. He is the chairman of the Progressive People's Party, completing my panel for today. Once again, thank you and for joining us. We'll jump right into it. But before that, so that it does not escape us, there's a very important development, of course. Brothers and sisters in the Muslim faith started their fasting. That's the Ramadan. They'll do it for 30 days this week. So just by way of felicitations with them, I'll go around the table and I'll start with Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, who himself is fasting, to lay some foundation for us. Then the rest of the panelists will follow. Comrade.
Well, good morning, Senna. Good morning to my very good friend and a brother, and good morning to my auntie. I wouldn't repeat the election of anti-responsibilities. And good morning to your cherished viewers, especially the good people of Tamale Central. We are in the month of Ramadan, and I know that those of you who are not Muslims, who are not fasting, at least you may fast in solidarity with your brothers and sisters in Islam. Fasting is compulsory, particularly Ramadan fasting is compulsory on all Muslims. And fasting was prescribed to even religions before Islam. And that's why when you look at Quran chapter 2 verse 183, Allah says that Ya ayyuhallazina amanu kutiba alaykum as-siyam kama kutiba ala allazina min qablikum la'allakum tattaqun. The fasting is prescribed for you as it was prescribed for those before you, so you may attain piety or you may get closer to your Creator. It is a long month. I mean, it's either 30 days or 29 days, because we use the lunar month, a month that, so you avoid food and water from dawn to dusk. But fasting goes beyond avoiding food and water from dawn to dusk. When you are fasting, that your ears are fasting, your eyes are fasting, your tongue is also fasting. Apart from the fact that you don't eat food, you don't drink water from dawn to dusk. And the reason why they say your ears, your tongue, and then your eyes are all fasting, you avoid seeing profanity. You avoid looking at women who are not your wives, or looking at people's wives. You avoid listening to profanity. You avoid uttering words that are profane. And the expectation is that within the 30 or 29 days, haven't resisted the temptation to engage in those things, you should be able to carry through the entire year, that experience, so that by the 11th month you get into the fasting again. Unless it's that he's only the person, the only being who knows the reward. Because if I fast and I go into my room, I can go into the room, astaghfirullah, may Allah forbid, to drink water or to eat. It is only me and my Creator who knows. Someone goes in and eat and comes out, you know, the person will still come out and be feigning that he or she is fasting. The expectation is that it's a month of charity and love. The Quran was first revealed in the month of Ramadan. So we are encouraged to read the Quran very often, particularly in this month of Ramadan. That when you avoid eating food, you would appreciate that some people are always in a perpetual fasting, people who do not have. So it softens your heart to extend your blessings to those who do not have. And that is why the month is divided into three: first 10 days, second 10 days, third 10 on. I won't go into that. But to just conclude that it is a month that Allah encourages us to give charity. Allah didn't say give charity to Muslims, that give charity to those who do not have. So even within your community, when you have charity to give, and someone is a Christian or even a traditionalist, and that person doesn't have, you are encouraged, look within your family first. If you don't find anybody who you should give, look within your community, and then you give the charity. The last point I would want to make on this Ramadan thing has to do with, as Muslims, we are expected to promote peace. We are expected to promote harmony, because even the name Islam means peace. Unfortunately, you find people who engage in certain acts that are at variance to what the religion stands for, what the religion preaches. But one thing that is significant in this month is that at the end of the day, what have you learned? You are expected that all your sins are forgiven. And let's say there is a man that Satan is tied. When they say not literally tie, but you should double the kinds of things you do that are good deeds. And once you double the kinds of things that are good deeds, it brings about godliness, tranquility, peace, and harmony between your families and among your people that you live in. And as an NDC person, and he is an MPP, myself and my auntie were an NDC, he is an MPP. We are not enemies. We belong to different political parties, but we may all have the same agenda. The agenda is, how can we help this country to grow? We may have different paths through which we want to achieve that particular agenda, but the agenda is that we all have an agenda for the good of this country, even though ours is better than his. So I think that is a man that we must all begin to. And in Islam, and I'm just concluding on this, who is supposed to fast? Once you are sane, healthy, you are supposed to fast. It's compulsory. But a woman who is in her menses is not supposed to fast for the days that the menses last. But the moment the menses ends, she has to pay back. A woman who is nursing a baby, you are not supposed to fast, because fasting may deprive you from producing the needed milk for the baby. But after you finish the nursing, you have to pay back. A man who is very old, let's say aged persons, about 80, 90, they may not fast, but they may feed someone who doesn't have. Someone who is embarking on a journey, you won't fast the number of days. If fasting would be a problem for you on your journey, but once you finish with the journey, you have to do what? You have to fast. Last point, someone who is terminally ill, someone has maybe diabetes, or ulcer, and cannot eat, and the state is that because when he fasts, it can cost him his life. He won't fast, but he would identify someone who doesn't have, and be taking care of that person, what he would take at dawn, the soul, and what he would take to break his fast for the what's the name, 30 or 29 days. When you do that, that person get the full reward of fasting. You also get the full reward of fasting. So it's a very huge experience. What is significant is, at the end of the fasting, you should continue with those virtues that you have learned in the month of fasting. So that is what I just want to say on this. I mean, it's a whole dialectical issues of
I guess listening to you. Well, so I think maybe messages from lawyer Appiah-Danquah then.
Good morning once again to Sena and to your lovely viewers. I'm privileged to be on the show. I think until now I was a virgin to Alhaji&Alhaji. I think that virginity has been broken. Good morning to my brother Murtala. I've always known my brother to be a comrade. I also know he's honorable, so I call him honorable comrade. I know he's also a very good Muslim, but I didn't know he was an imam. I didn't know Murtala was an imam. That's a fantastic what's it called? Is it lecturing or
contribution
on Ramadan? For me, Ramadan is very special, especially because of what Ramadan tells me about our country. We have a very special, special and beautiful country, and we should do everything in our powers to keep what makes this country special. And that's the kind of harmony that exists between people of different faith and religion. As in, growing up, I always look forward to Salah. You understand? Because I had quite a number of Muslim friends, and they would deliberately invite you to their homes to take part in the Salah celebration. So, in the light of that, Ramadan is is special. As in, I won't attempt to go into the kind of expose my brother did, but at least it's a holy month, and because of what we stand for as a country, the kind of harmony and unity, I want to, on the basis of that, wish our Muslim brothers all the best in this season. I know
Ramadan Mubarak. Ramadan Mubarak. Ramadan Mubarak.
So Ramadan Mubarak to all my Muslim brothers and sisters, and this also to call on them that in this holy month of Ramadan, as they fast and as they pray, as they consciously deliberate on matters, that they pray for our country. They pray that God should keep the harmony of this country. God should keep the religious harmony, the intertribal harmony, and that the vision of the founders of Achimota School. Today, happy 96th anniversary also to Achimota School. The motto of Achimota School is that all may be one, and that motto, that vision, that means that irrespective of where you come from, irrespective of your tribe, your religion, there's a need to recognize and identify the common humanity and to exist as one. And I think largely Ghana has done really well. And so in this month, that's my only request, that they pray that harmony is even forged better, that we keep the unity together even to a greater extent. And I believe that Ghana will become better when we recognize that we are one and never do anything to prejudice that sort of unity. So that's my message to my Muslim brothers.
Thank you. Mrs. Mogtari.
Well, very good morning to you and good morning to everybody here, including my nephew, in whom I'm very well pleased. Senna, I believe that Murtala has said it all. So may I just add my voice to wish everybody Ramadan Mubarak. You know that I live a very cosmopolitan life. I think we were born into a cosmopolitan family. I have married into one. So the month of Ramadan normally is a month that I actually share with my family as well. And I would normally consider it as a time for also participating so that we can all find a way to detox. You know, it builds a much healthier you, it will lighten your skin, it encourages you to focus. You know, fasting actually is one thing that all of our faiths and religions actually have in common. Yeah. It's one of the very rare tenets of faith that each actually practices. There must be a very good reason why most faiths will encourage you at a certain point in time to abstain from food, abstain from certain types of recreation, and some other things. You do know that there's even medically induced fasting sometimes. So I think all of us here wish every Muslim out there a Ramadan Mubarak. Let's have a month of holiness, a month of faith, a month of renewal, and a month where we are all recommitting to focus largely on our faithfulness in terms of our worship. So that's all I can say.
Those with big bellies, he should engage in the fasting. The belly will go down. But Sana, on a more serious note, I think that you see this country. He made a point that I think that reiterating, Ghana is so peaceful because we are very tolerant to each other. I just want to use the opportunity to plead with heads of various institutions, second cycle institutions. Muslim students need some level of patience. Even an elderly person, when you fast from dawn to dusk, there are certain times you are seeing the stars. How more a very young who is 15 years and particularly the diet. So they should understand that these people need some care just for that month. And thank God that most of the schools are on vacation. They will resume before the Ramadan ends. I just want to use the opportunity to plead with them that the tolerance with which this country is noted for, they should extend same to Muslim young men and women who are in the second cycle institutions who may be engaged in fasting. I remember when we were in Ghana school during Ramadan, when they are taking lunch, you don't take the lunch. So they combine your lunch and your supper. Then you take it at breakfast. Our breakfast was prepared earlier because you need to wake up around 3:30. You take it. So you don't take lunch, you don't take supper. They combine all. And I think that if they could do that to help our brothers and sisters in second cycle institutions.
Thank you. Thank you very much. So you said it's Ramadan Mubarak.
Yes.
To all Muslims. Ramadan Kareem. We pray that your fast is fruitful. If you want to contribute to the show, we have a number to which you can do that. You can send a text message, you can send a WhatsApp message. The number is 055-9919-802. If you're watching on Facebook or on television, you can see that 055-9919-802. That is the number you can send a message through. Let me say a big thank you to the affiliate station that are currently tuning to us. A big thank you to Shine FM in Akachi on 96.9, Hills FM in Adakula on 91.7, Nuwasi Radio Ketekwachi 89.7, Sela Radio Dabala 97.1, Diamond FM Tamale 93.7. There's Bawah Radio in Yendi, which is on 106.5, Radio Kitawan Saboba on 95.7, Benya FM in Elmina 105.7, Global FM 105.1 Ho. There's Volta 1 TV. There's Zeps FM on 95.9 in Zebila. There's True FM 92.5 in Adeso. There's Lamaya FM 89.1 in Triponi. There's Boem 88.7 FM in Jasikan. And of course, Lukusi 96.1 in Golokoti. Well, let's move on to that discussion of what transpired in Parliament yesterday. And of course, we have to start with the man who was there. He voted some. They made a promise. They were going to reject everyone, but they didn't in the end. There's a video actually trending, and they say the video comes from you, demonstrating how you voted. How did that come about?
Well, frankly, I took the video. It was not for public consumption. You know, there is a lady we have in Parliament, which is our colleagues in NPP says the radical lane, and you know, for whatever reason, I don't know why Honorable Mutaka and Honorable Haruna made us sit there. When you come on that lane, you have me, number one, you have Honorable Nugbe, Honorable Yusuf Bole, you have Honorable Bawah, you have Dafia Mapo, you have Sohini, you have Sam George, you know, you have John Jinapo, most of us are on that lane. So we took a decision, I mean, particularly those of us who were seated, and you said, look, me when I vote, I'm going to take a picture. Some said they would take videos. So Bawah, Honorable Bawah voted before me, you know, depending on the arrangement of the names. So when he voted and came, he showed a picture. He voted no throughout, because that was the directive and the position of the party. Honorable Yusuf also went and voted. And if I voted before Honorable Yusuf, so when I went and voted, I decided I won't take a picture, I'll take a video of how I voted. And I never took that video for the public. I took that video just, so when I came, I said, look, I voted no throughout and the video. And with my voice, but I wanted it to be so authentic. This is Murtala, how I'm voting. And after the elections, I think somewhere in the night, I had a conversation with a colleague of mine, very senior, and then an issue came up, and I said, oh, I took my position. What the party directed that would do was what we should do. And then he said, oh, then I should send the video to him. I sent it. Unfortunately, he shared the video on platform. I never shared that video, and that is how come. Even when my attention was drawn, I called him and I said what he did was not appropriate. But for the trust, I wouldn't have. So it isn't that I took the video and I wanted to share that video. This I want to state very clearly. And you heard me saying that this is how I'm voting, and I voted no throughout. To be very honest, there were a lot of stories that came up before even the voting yesterday. Certain individuals were accused, but that was the reason why we took a decision that whoever, I wasn't accused anyway. We took a decision that when we vote, particularly those of us, so me, Yusuf, Nogbe, Honorable Edward Bawah, that was what we did. Now, if you look at the trend of the voting, I've heard a lot of stories, and a lot of my attention has been drawn to NDC social media platforms, that those who voted against the party decision were those who were against the changes. Are you getting it? And that the previous leadership, Honorable Haruna-Idrissa Mutaka's led leadership, you know, they influenced people to do that. And I think it is most unfortunate. If there was anybody who should be influenced to vote against the party decision to embarrass this by Honorable Haruna-Idrissa, it would be me. Everybody knows how vociferous I was against the change. I was not against the change because of our friends who were elevated. I was against the change because of the process. And as a democratic process, you have the space to express your conviction, forceful as you may, as long as expressing it is within the ambit of law, and in this case, the party constitution. Nobody attacked anybody person. We raised those concerns. Council of Elders and the parties met all of us. We met with the leadership, and we have an outstanding working relationship with Honorable Atuforsin and his team. I have an outstanding working relationship with the national chairman and also the national secretary. I remember when we had a caucus meeting and I was asked to pray. Then the national chairman said, hey, you, a bad boy, and then, you know, when we see each other, it's our national chairman. We disagree with your position doesn't mean that we had problems with the people who were elevated. So that argument that Honorable Haruna Idrisu and co and those who were against the changes are those who voted, I think it is most unfortunate. Yesterday, I was in the chamber when Honorable Haruna Idrisu arrived in the morning and said, oh, there is a funeral. They told one of our colleagues lost their mother, and they were having the funeral at one Anglican church. If you get to Jokef, as if we are going to there is this Anglican church. So those of us who were around said, oh, accompany me and let's go to the funeral. We sat in 2 vehicles. Those of us who were seated in the vehicle, we said, look, this voting we are going to do today, everybody should ensure we vote to reject this minister. This is what Haruna was telling us. We should vote to reject this minister, to send a message to the MPP if they think that we are divided in our front. We are not. So how on earth could that same person will turn around and say that people should vote to embarrass the leadership? What I do know, the repeated conversations I have had with Honorable Haruna Idrisu and Honorable Mutaka is that we should do everything possible to assist this leadership to succeed. So I think it is unfair that the kinds of allegations and rumor that people are peddling. I was there and someone called me and said, oh, he had one of our colleagues took money. And I said, look, I didn't hear. I haven't seen. And I can't speak to something that I haven't seen. And I even told the person, look, it's even in the month of Ramadan. If you testify against somebody that is not true, and Allah says that the crime of it is just enormous. So I would just urge people. It hurts all of us. Now, I won't sit here and claim innocence, even though there is video evidence how I voted. But we must all collectively be blamed for what happened. You remember when we had the elections, the other approval of the ministers, my position was very clear. But I never sat and said, I am a saint. No. And the reason why that time I didn't even take a video, because we didn't expect that we wouldn't have the ministers rejected. But this one, I took the conscience. But let me state, some say, honorable member of parliament, you go to vote, and then no. It was never for public consumption. So I want to state, and I state this clearly, at no point in time did Honorable Haruna Mutaka told me or anybody, or had them tell anybody that we need to vote to embarrass this new leadership. And if there was anybody they were going to tell them, it would have been me. Everybody knew my position about it. Ask Honorable Atuforsin. We have an outstanding working relationship with him. Outstanding, despite our disagreement with the process. We never had problem with them. And in fact, in this matter, we did a lot. I insisted and asked Honorable Agboja. Before we voted, I came to Honorable Agboja and said, Honorable Agboja, I would insist that we are supposed to do it a secret ballot. But why not we insist that all of our colleagues, anybody who is going to vote should take a video? Ask Agboja. I told Honorable Agboja, whoever is going to vote, because you cannot trust everybody. We saw that once in the elections in the approval of the ministers earlier. And he said that, look, Honorable, we could have done that, but you can't trust everybody. When you say this, the thing may get out there. So you see, there are a lot of issues. And look at the way the voting is done. If you look at the votes each of these people got, it will be difficult to see that someone influenced it. You know, when I say influence it, assuming that someone had influenced members of parliament from outside to vote a particular way, the numbers, the differences wouldn't have been that much. But you realize that each of the ministers, they got different votes. Some got almost 15, some 10 votes. So if there was, in my opinion, that's what I think, if there was that influence, let's say from our caucus, that we need you to vote this to embarrass this leadership, then there would have been a group of people they would influence to do so. And those group of people would have you would have had at least 2 members, 2 appointees having either the same numbers or numbers of just 1 or 2 ballot difference. But if you look at what they got, what hurt me so much, look, we knew we did not have the number. We have only 136. MPP has 137 and 138.
Yeah,
plus the independent. So our position was that whatever the case is, we should count our number, we should be able to get 136 people voting no. Even if we had 136 people voting no, and 138, 137 voted, we would have been convinced that yes, we vote en masse no. Unfortunately, you have some of them almost 20-something votes. Several factors. The hypocrisy in this also is telling. On the issue of the judges, I heard some people saying, oh, this particular judge is from our region and therefore we must approve him. Yet those people are the loudest. Those people are the loudest. When I went and I voted no, there were people from our region. I didn't vote for them. But you see those who are saying that a particular judge is from where and therefore we must vote, they are the loudest. So you see, let's all not, we should stop pretending and playing the ostrich. Every single member is being, and for me, the disappointment is not even we, if you quote unquote, the elite within the NDC. It's the grassroots. People who have suffered for this party, who have never had any appointment in this party, who need nothing, even if the NDC wins, their lives may not even change, but they just want to see the party in power. They are the people we have betrayed. But for me, the NDC has offered me a lot, and under no circumstance will I betray the trust of the party. So I want to conclude by reiterating. That video was never meant for public consumption. I told you the person I sent it to, and I told the person when I saw it, I said, why would you share this? But we took a decision that this was what we're going to do. I think that Honorable Abuja wrote something on the platform, and for me that is encouraging. That look, what happened, we should let it go and let's forge ahead. Because if we begin to go ahead with this blame game again, it divides us the more. The MPP is happy about what is happening. When they had the speaker, their favorite speaker not elected, they were hurt. But how far did it go? I'm not saying that people should not express anger and hurt over the betrayal of the mass of our party. More so when the party gave a directive that this is the land we are going to. But when we begin to accuse people without a scintilla of evidence, that doesn't augur well for the cohesion within the party. Because frankly speaking, if there was anybody the former leadership were going to influence to do so, and before God and man, Haruna or Mutakan never told me, Murtala, we want you people should vote, or tell those who were with you when you were defending the cause to vote to embarrass this leadership. At no point in time. And yes, the statement I made when we were going to attend, I wasn't the only people. There were a lot of us said, look, you people should ensure that we vote to reject these people. For all you know, people are not even suspecting to have done that are those who did it. One thing I know is that everybody and your conscience, and God will judge everybody whether you betrayed the party or you didn't betray the party.
Thank you. Thank you. Right.
Yeah, so let me take this opportunity to congratulate the nominated ministers whose appointments were confirmed by Parliament yesterday. What happened yesterday, I think something similar happened when the issue of the Speaker of Parliament came up. Similar happened, I think, in the approval of some of the ministerial appointments. I think the Fisheries Minister and this Parliament, as in the closeness of, as in the Parliament in terms of the members. MPP has 137. NDC has 136 now, originally 137.
And two of them were not there.
Yes.
So, and the standings,
yeah,
if you have equal numbers, all of them would have been defeated.
Exactly. And one independent. The nature of this Parliament is throwing up a number of issues we have never been confronted by under this our fourth Republican dispensation. And I know that both parties are not too comfortable. As in when we lost the vote regarding the Speaker, we were not too happy. The NDC certainly are not happy with how things have gone, especially when probably because of the closeness of the number of members of Parliament. The party seems to openly come out in most times to attempt to whip their members in line. And so you recall that when the censure motion came up, my General Secretary or the NDC party openly came out and said all members of Parliament should oppose the censure motion. When they had come out to say that they were going to they called for the sack of the minister, and so these issues have come up. Yes, I know I'm partisan, so I can't be neutral, but I want to look at this from the Ghana angle. So we have a democracy that must grow, and certain things must engender that growth, because the democracy cannot be dynamic. Your democracy growing also means that the parties who are the direct actors of the democratic process must also grow in the way. So right now the parties are confronted with the problem, and the problem is to what extent can the party whip their members of parliament in line. Also, when you are an MP, you understand, you represent not just your party, really, but you also represent the people in your constituency, and not all of them necessarily are from your party, and so that conflict is also coming up. And so then when parties are growing, and it is in the interest of the country that all political parties grow. I'm an MPP, and for my personal self, I wish that MPP is in power all the time. But it is not in the interest of the party that one, we will just have one very strong political party. So then ultimately, it should be in all of us our interest that our political parties grow. And I'm saying that the political parties will grow because of what is happening now. The extent to which clear orders of the party, or the clear attempts of the party to put their members in line has been rebuffed by certain individuals. Because you see, certainly what we must understand is, and in my short foray into politics, I've realized that there's this sense of wanting to control people in politics. And so once you belong in this party, then you must toe a certain line. And I mean, my personal view is, see, first of all, there's this bigger Ghana agenda that all politicians should have an interest in getting the Ghana agenda working. You understand? And that's where, or why it is necessary that we not see ourselves as enemies, but because ultimately we have one goal, and the goal is to see a better Ghana. The difference being that we have what was called different views as to how that goal will be achieved. So because of that ultimate goal, it is important that divergent view, as in we do not clamp down on different views, but then they are allowed. And so it is, and that's what I'm saying, it is necessary that the political parties grow. Clearly, there's an extent to which you can control people. I'm in NPP because I believe in, I think I share generally in NPP's view of how they think Ghana should grow or Ghana should develop. It doesn't mean that everybody agrees perfectly with everything about the party. It cannot be possible. You cannot agree with every single thing because we're all different people. We're all unique. We're all individual. We have individual views. Similar with the NDC. And because of that, it is necessary that the parties understand that there's an extent to which you can put people in line. So let's take these MPs for instance. And my brother here made a very good a good point. Let's say if for all the votes you had 145, let's say so everybody had 145, then you can say, oh, then there was a certain influence, a certain consistent influence. But there are different numbers. Somebody had 167, somebody had so that there are different different issues, different considerations that the MPs considered when they were voting. Probably some of them are schoolmates, some of them beyond the politics have very, very good personal relationships. Maybe some of them, yes, they may belong to different political parties, but they do not doubt the integrity of the person being nominated, and they recognize that yes, their differences may be by way of ideology, not necessarily the integrity. So for me, I'm happy, and I'm not only happy because people nominated by my party or by the president belonging to my party have sailed through, but I'm happy because what is happening will push our parties to grow, will push our parties to develop, it will push our parties to recognize that beyond we just being, let's say, MPP or NDC, we are individuals, and we are individuals with our own views about how things are done or ought to be done, and the parties can then position themselves in a way as to take advantage of that. I know issues have arisen, or people have said pointing what's called Haruna Idrisu is this, Haruna Idrisu is that, and like I'm saying, because I believe strongly in the Ghana agenda, and I think that for that Ghana agenda to work, it is in our interest that all political parties are strong. I'll call on them to look at the bigger picture. Yeah, so what will Haruna Idrisu gain? And we know Haruna Idrisu for a very long time. What will Haruna Idrisu gain based on what he's gained from the party, based on what he has given to the party? What will Haruna Idrisu gain in undermining the new leadership of the party? So for me, I know people will be emotional and people will want to, but we should be guided. We shouldn't say things we do not know. We shouldn't say things that are not cogent. We should at least try to find some logic within what has happened, and believe that and recognize also that beyond we belonging to one party, we are also individuals. We are individuals with our own individual view of things. And the fact that the party will state a position or attempt to whip us, people for whatever reason, beyond taking money. I don't know why in this country, it's like we don't trust ourselves to the extent that when somebody deviates, the only conclusion without evidence is he's taking money. But you see, but that's a very serious allegation or sort of stuff on anybody, and so we should be guided. Unless we have evidence, solid evidence, then we shouldn't just be saying things that will admire the image of people. And so yes, people are individuals. People have their own views, and based on those views, they think that in spite of the clear orders of their party, they think they needed to pass the ministers. And so for me, yes, I'll congratulate them, and I'll conclude by saying that yes, I'm MPP and I'm a strong MPP, but I can't, and I think all of us we can't love our party beyond our country. And I think that what has happened and what is happening with people some few people define the clear orders of their parties. For me, I want to look at the positive. I think it will cause the parties to grow, because then necessarily the parties have to have an introspective. It could, but it could create a problem. It will force the parties to think, because they are too comfortable. The parties need to think. The parties need to become stronger and find a way of, because as our democracy is growing, a lot of these things are going to happen. A lot more independent-minded people will pop up in these political parties, and the parties must find a way of handling them. And I think that when they do, the parties will become stronger, and democracy will become stronger.
Right, thank you. Thank you very much. Let me just do a few messages before I come to Mrs. Mogtari. This is Kofi in East Legon, who says, if Haruna Muntaka said all should vote against, does it mean they voted against? It was a secret ballot after all. Many are not convinced. Even you, Murtala, I like you very much. I even believe you are a potential vice president, honestly. But how can I tell you voted? There's a video circulating to that effect. As for him, there's also Dennis Akwete who says, and truth be told, the NDC was a monumental disappointment yesterday in Parliament for whatever reason. Though some of us believe that the approach to change the minority leadership in Parliament could have been handled better, but any attempt to extend that to disrespect the party leadership subsequently on crucial issues in the manner it was done yesterday clearly shows that those betrayals did not only understand the time we are in today, but lack the tenacity to at least perceive their actions for the collective interest and therefore not fit for purpose. You have JM, you all appear to be rooting for, talking about the size of government, and you went to do that thinking that you're doing the national leadership. So distasteful, despicable, and nauseating, to say the least. I however salute Honorable Murtala Mohammed, my MP, that's Honorable Jifagumashi, and all those who stood to the cause to protect the public purse, who will find the betrayers. Okay, that's coming from Dennis Akwete. Then there's this one that says, this is Nia Shitiama. Okay, he's sending greetings. I'll do that a bit later. Then this one coming from Martin Kwame Sedem, who says, with what happened in Parliament yesterday, I see apathy setting in from our grassroots. We need to watch it as a party. The betrayals are becoming too much for our endurance. Is this cruelty an agenda against GM? he may be contemplating if indeed these MPs have his back. I pity GM, but those greedy MPs will not succeed. That's coming from him. So those are some messages coming in. There are some more I'll be reading, going through on Facebook. I have to do a lot of saving.
You know, some of us were insisting that we should do it an open ballot, so that everybody votes. And if we had done an open ballot, there was no way this approval would have been done, because considering the fact that the MPP were just 136, and we're also 136, open ballot, who could receive votes against any parties? So if we had equal numbers, it would have been defeated. The argument was that the Constitution and the Standing Order says it should be a secret ballot. That is the difficulty.
Okay. There are a few messages I'll be jumping. There's Israel Bina says most NDC members are greedy than MPP members. Haruna Jibril is also joining us. Says a good morning to all of us, especially lawyer Andrew Appiah, for the wonderful and brilliant submission. They vote for Alan and win for Alan. There's Achulo Suwale Abdul Razak, who is talking about a closed door meeting the speaker had with the leadership. What decision was taken at the meeting? I can't think for Mr. Speaker. I'm not sure. I think there was a caucus meeting. There's positive change in Medina, who says trusting the NDC now is getting difficult. Just look at what the MPs are doing in Parliament. If this continues, then let's forget 2024. No different in what they did yesterday compared to what the ruling party MPP is doing. They told us they are not in support of the newly appointed ministers, but they went ahead to approve them. What a shame. That's positive change in Medina, who is not positive this morning. There's Francis Gordon says bipartisan agreements between MPP and NDC should be encouraged to strengthen our democracy. There's Eric Okusapeno, who says this cyclical passing or approval of ministers and judges to Supreme Court should not be determined by tribes, regions, party interests, but competence and experience in their chosen field of studies and knowledge to circumvent square pegs in round holes, superintending over institutions. Secondly, the constitution review should abolish appointing minister from Parliament. That should be done away with. Liberia King says they were all the same, because this is the second time they have disappointed Ghanaians, and it's better they are kept in opposition. They are all liars. All of the NDC MP are hypocrites. They are against the current leadership. This president has no respect for Ghanaian, and you guys represent us, disappointed us for the second time. I wouldn't even vote again. There's no trust. Maria Adams says if you're in Parliament because of family, religion, friends, then you better dissolve Parliament. Shameless opposition MPs, you should all be voted out. And says shame to those who betrayed the party and the grassroots. There's Susanna Appiah, who is joining us. Why are we not discussing why as a country we should cut our quota according to our material? Do we need more ministers in this time of hardship? What is our priority as a nation? There are people in Ghana dying daily because of poverty. School system is a mess. Please, MP, let's build a nation worthy for generations to come. This kind of parliamentary processes are geared for failure. Let's stop deceiving ourselves. Our country is bleeding and we need to get serious. Increasing the government ministers at this time is needless. Susanna Appiah send us that. Sambafo says, my heart is profusely bleeding because of JDM. Some of our MPs are just trying to sabotage this fine, experienced, honest, and God-fearing gentleman. But they should know whatever God has tied together, no one can untie. God is watching all of us. Senna, my warmest greetings from Amsterdam. Good morning to you too, Sambamfo. Thank you. Samuel Anstre says, if any NDC MP took money to vote against his or a party, the person is Judas Iscariot, 30 pieces of silver. If however the voting is out of clear conscience, it's fine. That's the beauty of democracy. Mrs. Mogtari.
Well, thank you very much, and very good morning to you, Senna, and good morning to all our viewers. Good morning to my family members in the Upper West region and the Northern region, Savannah, and all of that. And congratulations also to the newly installed Bawumia of the Rojaland traditional area, and also wishing Auntie Betty Moore a very, very happy 70th birthday. No, Senna, this morning there's a certain perceptible change in the mood, especially in the compound of the National Democratic Congress in particular. There's always been this sense that sometimes when people do things that are praiseworthy, we must certainly give them praise. You know, this year in particular has been an annus mirabilis, a very unique and notable year for the National Democratic Congress. We saw a change in the guard of our leadership, both at the headquarters with a new party chairman. We saw the same change in leadership on the front of Parliament or on the floor of Parliament. We've also seen how all these changes have given enormous boost to the rank and file of this great party of ours. There is a clear raison d'etre, as has always been the case, why there is always a need sometimes to reform, to shake up leadership. It is to inspire confidence, to improve effectiveness, to improve efficiency, and also just sometimes even for basic renewal in every household or in every institution, association, or organization. This morning, Sena, let me on behalf of every well-meaning Ghanaian citizen commend the at least 100 members of Parliament who refused to trade their conscience for what has gone on, who refused to be used to further deepen the woes of the good people of Ghana, who refused to be part of this charade that has only served to jeopardize an already difficult situation in which we find ourselves. There is a certain course that all of us ought to defend. There are times when there's a need even to take off parochial interests and act in a manner that is in concert or in tandem with the generality of the interests of the millions out there who would never find themselves in or around Parliament or even any decision-making process or table for that matter. It is this cause that we ought to stand for, the millions out there who agree with the generality of Ghanaians who state that one, we have too many ministers, we have too many government appointees, there is too much wastage, that it is time for us to demand that our leader of government, President Akufo-Addo, prune down his government, reduce the size of his ministers, above all, reduce the cost of maintaining all of these appointees in office or in government. It is a very simple reason why there was a need for the National Democratic Congress as the alternative government in waiting to have shown a sign that at this time what is of paramount interest is the interest of the good people of Ghana and not members of Parliament or what their interests are. We must all, in a certain united way, condemn in no uncertain terms what has happened. I'm sure the party in the course of the day will come out with a statement on its own position, but all of us this morning are crestfallen, saddened by what has happened, having disappointed the many Ghanaians whose hopes and aspirations we carried. For one reason, Ghanaians were asking that not only should our pensioners, bondholders, and what have you be taking a haircut, but that government should, as a matter of necessity, accept a haircut. And that haircut was actually to be started by the fact that we would have gone out there to vote against increasing the number of ministers that we have. We must call out all those who betrayed the cause of this great party. And you see, Honorable Murtala, let's stop shielding people who do wrong. Let's stop accommodating treachery or betrayal. Let's end this business of refusing to name and shame. There's a good reason why sometimes we put our lists of offenders so that everybody knows that these are the people who have done A or B. Sometimes there comes a time when a political party must take a certain course of action. We must also adopt a certain revolutionary humility in the manner in which we do things. And I'm sure when you remember when Prime Minister Churchill suffered a revolt, what did he do? He listed all those who revolted against his government in times of war, because at the time they were on the cusp of losing a great battle. We must, as a group and as a people, remember that Ghanaians did not elect us to go and sit in parliament and do what pleases us as individuals or what works in our personal interests. Why not? Until when we were in office, all of the people in parliament, most of them were in parliament, both from the side of the NPP and on the NDC. Did they not have friends? Did they not have classmates? Did they not all have colleagues in the house? Please. I am sure there were even occasions when there were all sorts of gifts that passed and changed hands. But you know what the majority did. On a matter as basic as Professor Nanaji and Opoku-Agyeman going to ask for a support agreement from the World Bank to provide free sanitary towels to girls. We were all here. And sometimes I wish that you play some of these conversations back on the same floor of Parliament. What was the reception that we got? Look, whatever we do, we must find our Judases. Oh yes. It's like you live in a compound house and there's somebody who is always carrying stories of the house and going out. You look for him. You look for him or her. When you do that, you settle the score. Look, we are expecting young people, we are encouraging young people, we are encouraging the generality of the populace that we are working in their interests. 275 members of parliament, and when President Mahama called for a cancellation of ex gratia, people were screaming all over the place. These are some of the reasons, Senna, why members of the general public probably believe that these sorts of incentives are actually undeserving. If you put your hands under the table and receive all sorts of allowances and stipends and gifts from all sorts of places, why should Ghanaians and the taxpayer actually be burdened with taking care of you in whatever state in which you find yourself? You know, when people work hard for the common interest, why? People are happy to see that you are comfortable. Have you forgotten the debates that led to you guys receiving the four-wheel drives? Was it not because there had been some accidents in the run-up to that debate? People were happy that you should be given better vehicles, that you were even supposed to get life insurance. You know, we have all arrived here as a matter of history and events in our country that have led us here. There is also a very good reason why we sometimes open these things to public debate. There must also have been a good reason why the party did not expect any defiance on this occasion. Imagine that even the 136 of our NDC MPs had stayed the course. That is within itself a protest enough. And we would have spoken loudly and clearly and sent a clear message. So please, we must stop trying to provide the reasons why, and you know, all these, they defy logic. I know people even in the MPP who were even waiting to vote against some of these, and I'm sure some of them did. You understand? There are some issues that I think are not about partisanship and have nothing to do with partisanship. You know, it is even sadder when you wake up and you see all the comments from everybody. So the question is, so who are those who went out there and voted for them? 167 for the Honorable Brian Champon, 150 plus for the Honorable Katie Hammond, and it goes on and on. Even Mr. Sticker. Including Mr. Sticker. You understand? You know, so please, let's just stop this attempt to, you know, try and calm nerves and pretending as if everything is okay. It's not okay. Look, we have a very crucial election approaching. But you see, I always come back to the point. Democracy is beautiful. So please, if you send your member of parliament to go and undertake a task and he or she has failed, when you provide us with a list of all these Judases, please Let's tell those people in those constituencies. Oh, why? You see, in this life, I tell people all the time, few things remain secrets. Very few. Even the whiff of suspicion around a few names is enough to send a very clear message. As for the list, I can bet you that this debate will go on for the next few weeks. Eventually, there's some people that no matter what they do, even if they go and swear to whatever deities they exist, there will be no way that they can extricate themselves from these matters. And you see, what we have already done is to try to tell Ghanaians that some of our own really probably are not concerned about what is going on in our society. Murtala, there's enormous difficulty. We are in Ramadan. Go out in the streets and see. There's enormous hardship. We are living in very precarious circumstances, uncertain times. There's enormous anxiety. The least of what we need right now is for our party also to be in disarray, to thrive on this level of, betrayal and treachery of a kind never before anticipated. And this is 30 years of this particular Fourth Republican Party. You understand? There must be a good reason why our leadership even entreated and brought it to our attention that we ought to be pragmatic and prudent in the manner in which we handle some of these issues. You understand? When you have your own political party defying in such an obstinate manner, it tells you something. Look, I would want once more to commend those who stayed the course, stayed with the party, yourself included. I want us to also start to think carefully, to re-examine our consciences, to re-examine the reason why we do some of these things. Like I said, there are also individuals even within the 138 of the MPP who expected us to live up to expectations, because they all admit that continuing to make these appointments is a drain on the already non-existent public purse. That we do not need, in any case, more ministers. That we also ought to be conscious about the ramifications for not just our party, but for our democracy, nascent as it is. Are you surprised then that whenever you even make proposals, they fail to carry the day? Yeah. We were all here when the motion on censure hearing took place. You remember the cash for seats, for example? Think about it. There have been many of these examples. Where are we going from here? I think that today I want to repeat a message that I keep sending to the rank and file of our party, our brothers and sisters out there who elected, voted for us, queued, some fought very hard. Look at what happened in the Yawasu West Worgan by-election, for example. Look at what happened in the 2020 election, for example. We're still waiting even for some closure to these matters. There are individuals who put their lives on the line for some of you. Please, our members of our party should not lose hope. They must stay strong, stay committed, stay loyal, and please find out which of the individual MPs engage in this level of treachery. And if you are able to find them and determine who did what, please have no mercy. But be assured that whatever happens, however it has happened, today is gone. Tomorrow will take us into the future. And I believe strongly that, like President Mahama tells us all the time, let's look ahead. Let's build a strong party. Let's build people who love this country. Above all, let's be sure that we eschew treachery. We must find a way to punish this betrayal. And then moving forward, give the assurance that our party is poised for this election, irrespective. And assure the many people, some are not even necessarily party members, who have reposed their confidence in the National Democratic Congress, Senna, that we are poised for victory. We will work hard. We will campaign hard. We just have to get these internal contests out of the way and move ahead united and strong. But we must condemn what has happened in Parliament, especially for those who defied the 100 people who stood with the party and with the good people of Ghana. I'm sure eventually we'll know exactly who and who did what, and then we'll be able to accordingly express our profound gratitude. But we must remember that any attempts to defy your party also makes you a persona non grata, and that you probably should not even be part of the caucus. And let's go back to the examples that we've had over the years. We are all very, very disappointed this morning. And I can tell from the messages that Senna has been reading. Everybody is demoralized. And you can tell there's a certain, there's a certain palpable disappointment. You can feel it.
And anger.
Enormous anger and rage. And none of us should tolerate what has happened and think that it's okay. And brush it under and think, well, why not? We are all part of a certain group, so let's accept it. Certainly not. We are actually even subjecting ourselves even to some modicum of ridicule. We reduce everything to a charade, some drama. All sorts of orchestrations and all sorts of, manipulations and all sorts of machinations going on. Totally unnecessary and needless under the circumstances. At the end of the day, the Ghanaian is suffering. Our taxpayers are suffering. Our pensioners are suffering. Name it. Even all of us seated here, we are suffering. You understand?
He's also suffering.
You understand?
Everybody.
So we must not,
of course.
We must not, under any circumstances. Look, I have a very interesting, phrase that I love so much. Actions, not words. In Latin, is acta non verba. Sometimes it's better to talk less. This is why they tell you that silence is even golden sometimes. At least in most cases. Just be seen to be doing. Why do we go in and disappoint everybody and then come out and everybody has a day? So genuinely, tell us who are the ones who really, who actually went and voted for all this. If all of you are out here now singing from different hymn books. I mean, Senna, have you seen all the different conversations going on? Please, you are in Parliament, tell us.
Who have videos?
Tell us what happened.
How would I know those?
You have to tell us. Because even I am confused.
Those who voted for
nephew mine.
Those who voted for them.
Yes. Because I'm confused. On our platforms, everybody is singing.
I have a video.
Everybody is lamenting.
You've seen my video, right?
Right now, it's not fear delegates, fear MPs.
Fear MPs.
No. We have joined them to both. And Sir John, may your soul rest in peace.
No, it's not fear MPs.
No,
it's not fear delegates, it's fear MPs.
We have added a new refrain to his refrain. Fear delegates today. Even the NDC now knows that we should fear what? Fear MPs.
Fear MPs.
Regrettable, unfortunate, and very sad. Senna.
Let me go through some of the messages that I'm still getting. And in fact, when I read the messages, you understand the mood in which a lot of NDC supporters are. There's a lawyer, David Ametefe, who says, you MPP uses money a lot. The reason they are still in power, despite their disgraceful performance, the same reason they are loved by the powerful in Ghana. They are well taken care of. Our MPs may be on their payroll too. I'm listening to you live from Kokwe. As for our MPs, they are going to see our anger soon as the delegates pay them back. That's lawyer David Ametefe. There's also, this is Dennis Yakwete. Says, Honorable Joyce, Bawah made me shed tears like the biblical Rachel, unconsoled, but revives and gives me hope at the same time. So let me do a few of the WhatsApp messages that are a lot. In fact, they started sending in at 8:55. First message we got. This one says 40% of the NDC MPs are evil. and they are not there for the good of the nation, but rather for their own selfish interest. There's another one who says a good morning. We shouldn't underestimate our colleagues. Okay. Okay, I think I'm reading one from yesterday. Okay. Abdul Razak says, good morning, Senator. Please, yesterday when I watched the parliamentary proceedings, I was shocked seeing how our MPs approved the nominees of the president. They didn't do we grassroots any good. Please tell Comrade Murtala. Okay, that one is another matter altogether. I am Ibrahim, aka Malam from Ejra. Honorable Murtala, you're one of the MPs I respect, but unfortunately, you have disappointed us in Parliament. For that reason, I will never vote for any NDC MP again. There's this one who's a senator. NDC is shameless and very unserious party. All hope is lost. The majority of this country's governance is okay. Okay. Now he moves into the arena of insults. This one says, good morning, Senator. A very sad day indeed for our democracy. The NDC MPs has not only disappointed its members, but also majority of Ghanaians who thought the NDC would actually stand with them at this critical moment. The NDC has indeed shot itself in the foot, and if care is not taken, floating voters will find it extremely difficult to trust the NDC again. What a sad day for our democracy. The ANEFI sent that from Tamale Central. ANEFI. Okay. This one says a good morning. Okay. Thank you. There's this one from Idris Suhini in Tamale who says, good morning. Please extend my greetings to my mentor, Honorable Murtala Mohammed. Indeed, you made my day this morning. Continues to make us proud. May Allah guide you. There's this one who says, I'm extremely disappointed in the MPs who defied the orders of the party and voted to pass the minister's designates. He said Kevin Taylor predicted this long before the voting date. It looks like he has been vindicated. Devastated. Kwame sent that from Adidome. There's Rich from Takrady, who is also joining us. John Mahama had 84 ministers when Ghana had a population of 25 million and only 10 regions. Ghana now has 16 regions plus a population of 31.3 million. This means extra work, extra responsibilities across the country. Now in 2023, all regional ministers do not have deputy ministers. President Mahama in 2012 appointed ministers and deputies for all the 10 regions. We actually have reduced the size of government now than ever before relative to the 16 regions we now have. Simple. Rich sent that from Takrady, defending the numbers. There's also, just one says, those NDC MPs who are not going unopposed and voted yes in Parliament yesterday should not know that this is the last time they are going to be parliamentarians, because we delegates will kick them out at the primaries in May for sure. That will be the icing on the cake. Okay, I've read Kwame said them a bit earlier. There's this one which says, I'm very sure that most of the NDC MPs will not come back to Parliament. Most of them are disappointment. My producers are drawing my attention to the fact that I think there's a post that has been made on the page of the former president. And this former president's Facebook page says, a couple of weeks ago, our NDC group in Parliament announced a principled position not to approve any new ministers until the president has taken steps to significantly reduce the size of his government. This position was supported by a broad section of Ghanaians and public advocacy groups. Unfortunately, Ghanaians were sorely disappointed yesterday when several members of the minority for some parochial and personal interests voted against the principled position adopted by the party. I am also disappointed. Those responsible for this betrayal must do some serious soul searching and learn to place national interest over personal interest. Equally disappointing is the president's refusal to seize the opportunity to realign and downsize his bloated government when the MPP flag bearer hopefuls and the chieftaincy ministers resigned. Clearly, in this time of crisis and excruciating hardship, President Akufo-Addo, his MPP administration, and some of our MPs are out of tune with the mood of the Ghanaian people. I still believe, as I said in Ho recently, that in this time of crisis, government can still run efficiently with not more than 16 ministers. For our grassroots members and all Ghanaians who are disappointed by this insensitivity, I urge you not to despair. 2024 offers us an opportunity to work hard to defeat this reckless government that seeks to destroy our democracy and the very livelihoods of Ghanaians, an opportunity for us to work and build the Ghana we all want from January 7, 2025. That's coming from former President Mahama. We've been discussing this whole matter of what transpired in Parliament yesterday. Let's take a quick break.
But do you know that if the party sacks you from the party as a member of Parliament, you forfeit your seat?
When the party sacks?
Yes.
You forfeit your seat?
Yes. Because the party pays for your filing fee. Yeah. So you are in Parliament on behalf of the party. So if the party establishes that you betray the party and they sack you, you lose your seat.
But even before that, why you contest on the ticket of?
No, I'm just saying that even your filing fee.
You are even going far. The filing fee is after you have decided to stand on the ticket of the party. So
if the party decides that you betray the party and sacks you from the party, your seat becomes vacant.
See, I think the constitution is quite clear.
Very, very clear.
If you cease to be a member of the party, then
you cease to be a member of Parliament.
My only issue or my only concern is whether or not per NDC's constitution go against the clear orders of the party.
Of course, that's a betrayal. If the party gives directives,
there's no betrayal in your constitution. There's a better way.
Whether or not that will be a ground.
No, I'm saying that's a betrayal.
Yes, that be a ground to
mean somebody from the party.
If we have to take a break, we'll be right back. When we come back, directives. If you go against the directives, the party can decide to serve. That's a fact.
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, Aide.
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I did call. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco fast floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg going to say that.
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. No, the estimate is free. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster, and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
Hello, information.
Madam.
Me, I have still not got the money for that list of expensive building materials you sent to me. The price of the iron rods have been increased too much, Aide.
Madam, relax. Look, that's not why I did call. I just visited IPCP, where the engineers told me everything about Trasacco fast floor.
Trawanko, please, those people are expensive. Are they not the people building those big houses in town? I beg going to say that.
Madam, in fact, I used to think the same until I visited their office today, and they gave me an estimate of how much it will cost. No, the estimate is free. It's cheaper than the one I even sent you.
Wow.
Building contractors, foremen, masons. Visit IPCP, the Trasacco Fast Floor. Engineers will assist you build an affordable, faster and stronger building.
Oh, madam. It is done.
Wow.
Trasacco Fast Floor. Stronger, faster and affordable.
This is a Trasacco construction product.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the
and Alhaji, we are live on Pan-African television. Don't forget, we are also live on Radio Gold. Now, our next discussion has to do with the Electoral Commission. And this week, we found out at some point that 3 persons have been appointed to the commission. The first person is Dr. Appiah-Danquah, who is a member of the faculty member, Department of Computer Science and Informatics at the University of Energy and Natural Resources, Ghana. There's Reverend Appiah-Danquah, who is Director of Programs for the Anglican Diocese of Accra. And of course, there's Madam Salima Ahmed Tijani. Those were the three people that were appointed. Initially, seems harmless until videos popped up of Dr. Peter Appiah-Danquah defending strongly the new Patriotic Party and the government in a radio station studio in the Bono region. We'll show you that video. When we come back, we'll discuss the implications of appointing someone who has openly been communicating for a party to the commission, the Electoral Commission. We'll be right back.
He has labored, he has suffered.
Before free SHS, before 2017, na asoro kokrano, ye maame masoro kone modern. Once a man the young to say ako madam became maybe finished James Traba ako be 5 years. Free SHS ni start ya na fe matter is asoro ko Wesla. Ye maame mo dress in crisis. Catchero. Before free SHS, before 2017, na asoro kokrano, ye maame masoro kone modern. Once a man the young to say ako madam became maybe finished James Traba ako be 5 years. Free SHS ni start ya na fe matter is asoro ko Wesla. Ye maame mo dress in crisis.
He has labored.
That is the only male in the three nominees that were announced. So there are two female, one male together. They are heading to the. In fact, they were not announced. They were sworn in. So which means that as we speak, they are members of the Electoral Commission, and you know how the kind of processes you have to go through. It wasn't an appointment announced. It was a swearing in. So they are members of the Electoral Commission. Specifically, issues have been raised about him. There are those who subsequently shared some things about the Salimatu Ahmed Tijani. I'll read one of them to you shortly. But before that, let me start this discussion with Comrade Murtala again on this issue.
When Joyce was making her comment, I said it was a reminiscence of a criminal. When a thief has stolen, anybody can still have that thief, because you can't defend some of the things that we did. And when I say we, as members of Parliament in Parliament on the issue of these approvals, so it's just, it hurts. It's unfortunate. I just hope that this one shall also pass. However, on the issue of the Electoral Commission, I think that the concerns that people have raised, one has to do with the political consciousness or partisanship of those individuals. I have seen a video where the gentleman, the only man, among the three appointees, or is it nominees? It's appointees, right? Yeah. Yeah, they're appointed. They're not like the commission and then the deputies. Happen to be an MPP activist. I've seen a video where he participated, I think, a TESCON program in one of the tertiary institutions, and urging them that to make sure that they elect SRC presidents who are members of the NPP. Such a person is unfit to be a member of the Electoral Commission. But this is not surprising. The commissioner, I have stated, the Electoral Commissioner herself, you remember on this program and on several platforms, I stated that she was and she's still an activist of the NPP. And I remember I said on TV that she was a family relation to the First Lady, Rebecca Akufo-Addo. And Kukubaku sat on Good Morning Ghana and said without any evidence, or he was pretending that what the statement I made wasn't true. No, he said it on News File, I think so. And also subsequently on Good Morning Ghana, that I claimed that Jane Mensah was a family relation to the First Lady was not true. Only for it to be proven in open court that she was indeed, and she's indeed, a family member of the Rebecca Akufo-Addo. And not aside being a family member, an activist of the NPP, there is no denying that fact. Dr. Bosman Asari, when I was in Lagos, I think he was my 2 years senior. He was in the political science department and I was in the psychology department. And if you know the University of Ghana, the departments are on the same compound. So we easily knew. And we all knew those who were active in the MPP student, front, and those of us who were active in the NDC student front. When I came to University of Ghana to do my PhD, he was the head of the department at the political science department. That was the very year he was nominated as the Deputy Electoral Commissioner. At the time when he was nominated, he was the TESCON patron, or whether he had just handed over to someone, but he had been a TESCON patron before. That is the MPP wing. So this is an activist of MPP. The question is that if they were able to appoint, President Nado was able to appoint these two MPP activists, and nothing happened. Sirbo, who doesn't know that Sirbo is an MPP person? The question is, what did we do when these 2 or 3 individuals were appointed as the Electoral Commission? And they were appointed purposely to ensure that they do the bidding of President Nado, most importantly in the 2020 elections. You remember when Kennedy Japan took on Charlotte Osei? People like Eslausu, who pretend to be fighting for women in this country, defended the abusive words that Kennedy Japan used against Charlotte Osei and supported every statement, no matter how vulgar those statements were made against Charlotte Osei. And there wasn't any basis. Betrayally, in fact, aside the betrayal of NDC members of parliament in the elections of, or in the approval of these ministers, another bigger betrayal was Kweku Baku's attitude towards, Charlotte Osei. My understanding was that they are somewhat related in any case. So it means that political interest at any point in time by people is supreme, because that is the collective they associate themselves with. The only thing that I think that cannot assuage anybody's interest is your religion, like me. But when it comes to any other thing, the political party I ascribe to should motivate my behavior. And like he said, he agrees and thinks that his ideological position resonates with the ideology of the political party he belongs. What is shocking is the loud silence of some of the civil society organizations and some religious leaders in this country. The peace of this country is anchored on what happens in the elections. And I was shocked to hear the president say that elections are determined by voters. Elections are not determined by those who count or those who collate or those who declare results. And I was shocked to hear the president make that statement. Because that statement can be likened to performance of students in an exams are determined by students. They are not determined by those who mark. That's what the president is telling us. Your performance in an exam as a student is determined by what you wrote. Strangely, someone would have to mark, and that person needs to be fair-minded. The one who is going to mark your paper must be fair-minded, sincere. Now, if you have the one who is going to mark your paper hates you as a student and wants to deliberately fail, you fail. So for a president to say that elections, the validity of elections are determined by the voters and not those who do that, then the president must not even be the president, because he's a president representing the people of this country. So the governance of this country should be determined by the people of this country and not the one who is at the helm of affairs. And I heard the president make this statement. How many civil society organizations condemn that statement? We have seen several of such in many African countries. That the violence that those countries experience are attributed to the processes of changing their leadership. Kenya is a classical example, where thousands of people were maimed. Kenya is a classical example. Ivory Coast is another example. And in the case of Ivory Coast, the elections were not even conducted when the turmoil started. Liberia, many people do not even know. The Liberian conflict had to do with the selection of leadership in those countries. So we should all be mindful of the processes leading to that. The only reason why President Nado bent on appointing these people and did so is for him to be able to manipulate the elections in 2024. And he is doing so because of Dr. Bawumia. Because he thinks that Dr. Bawumia is the only person who can protect the loot of the Akufo-Addo's family. I am telling you, if Dr. Bawumia was not running, President Nado wouldn't have given a jot as to who becomes the appointee, who he appoints to the electorate. He is doing so because of one single agenda. But you see, I always say this in it. Allah says in the Holy Quran, that they plan and Allah plan. But Allah is the master of all what? Of all plans. And you can attribute it to those who they think that they are sabotaging President Mahama for whatever reason. Whatever plan you do, Allah is the best master of all plans. Look, you can manipulate the system, regardless the concerns expressed by people. You can do anything. The 2024 elections, you are losing it. And if it is written by Allah that you lose the 2024 elections, no matter who you make the electoral commissioner or commissioners or staff at the electoral commission, you will lose that elections. We have seen many countries where such manipulations were done. Ivory Coast, once again, is another example. Yet, that when the time is up, the time is up. Look, I want to see civil society organization being the loudest. Unfortunately, Senna, and I want to criticize the media too. It's like a section of the Ghanaian media is zombified. It's zombified. Anything Nanado does, there is nothing wrong with that. Look, a lot of the things that are done under this government that are not criticized by the media, a section of the clergy, and even a section of the civil society in this country, an iota of such was not even attempted under President Mahama, and everybody, they went to the hills. Everybody. And I'm happy she is here after she lambasted we, the MPs. You had a professor, Professor Aide and co, who said that President Mahama was running a family and friends government. When you had only Joyce Bawah as a deputy minister for transport, and before her appointment, a lawyer in practice for 18 years. The president himself said in Kumasi that he wasn't going to run family and friends government. Only for the president to appoint to the extent that appointed baby mamas as ambassadors in his administration. Yet these people didn't see anything wrong with that. All the issues the NDC is raising, and at least some selected media such as Radio Gold, Pan Africa TV, you stand out in some of your positions on this, and some few selected civil society organizations. I haven't heard any clergy says anything about this. I haven't heard a single religious leader in this country point out to this president that this is unacceptable. My disappointment also has to do with the Council of Elders. Council of States. Council of States' responsibility is to advise the government and the president and tell him where you are heading is danger. Now, I have heard people who express disappointment because they think that the president didn't do due diligence in identifying the politics or the partisanship of these individuals. And I say, if you say so, you'll be more disappointed. The president looked for them. He knew the people he wanted to appoint. Members of the Council of States, unfortunately, also knew. What kind of advice did they give the president? Did they tell the president that what the president was doing was unacceptable? And if they didn't do so, then do you think that it would be relevant to have the Council of Elders, a Council of States any longer? And if they did so and the president refused to heed, wouldn't you think that would be enough grounds for some of them to resign? Because if you have a responsibility to give that advice to the president, and the advice is given in a critical decision he wanted to take such as this, and he refuses to heed your advice for any other reason, I think that it will be untenable if you have some conscience to continuously occupying that office and serving that particular body. So I think that, look, this matter has not and must not be left to rest here. The validity of elections are not determined just on the elections day. The processes leading to the elections all are contributory factors to determine whether the elections you conduct were valid or not. Now, if people began raising concerns about the process, people are raising genuine concerns, and there are video clips where the gentleman is doing MPP politicking, and those concerns are not heeded, and anything happens, who should one blame? The peace of this country, and whatever happens, unfortunately, as a result of this conduct, certain individuals will be held responsible. The president and the vice president, the electoral commissioner and her deputies will be held responsible for whatever happens as a result of some of these belligerents not to listen to even reasoning and taking decisions that we all collectively think would inure to the benefit of this country.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Before I come to you, lawyer, okay, I'm still the messages I'm still getting. Still going back to the first topic.
I know.
This one says, Senator, if you're in a country whereby even bank tellers call persons to jump the queue to be served because they tip them, How much more politicians for that matter? Members of Parliament, I'm not surprised with the outcome. As for the NDC, they are not thinking of winning. These people, they will kill and win because, okay, he says the chief killer was endorsed yesterday by their members. Okay, so that's one of the messages that are being sent. And there's this one which says, we are disappointed in the shameless betrayal and double standard behavior of the NDC MP. We can't trust them any longer. Richmond Aholu sent that from Angloga. This one says, okay.
Senator, tell them some of us didn't betray the NDC.
Yeah, there's this one which says, please, Senator. Honorable Ricky Tegan just confirmed our suspicion as grassroots supporters this morning when he said on another TV station that there are 3 issues or reasons that make some of the NDC members vote the way they did according to him. The reasons were 1, to sabotage the current minority leadership, 2, greed on the part of those who did what they did, 3, relation with nominees as friends and family relations. Thank you for the good work you're doing. Bryce sent that from Joapon. This one says the NDC as the problem with some NDC members, okay. NDC as a political party is not the option for now because most of the MPs are not trustworthy and have been compromised. Ghanaians should express their anger. Okay, thank you very much for that message. There's Puzem from the Upper East region. Yesterday I wept within me and asked myself, can this NDC party be trusted with some floating voters, which I'm party? Aren't NDC members in Parliament aware that Ghanaians are suffering? There's, this one says, Senator, tell Murtala and his NDC MPs in Parliament that they are killing us, their supporters slowly. Ni Kote sent that from Ashaiman in Zeno. There's this one. Okay. Alhaji Hamza in Pig Farm says, good morning. In fact, what happened yesterday in Parliament is a very serious indictment on the part of some of the minority in Parliament. What the minority should know is that they are in Parliament because of the party, and for that matter, the interest of the party should come first. I would throw a challenge to MPs who betray the position to go independent and see whether they can make it to Parliament. Trust this majority will ever suspect the minority again. Okay, trust this. The majority will never respect the minority again in Parliament, simply because some of them can sell their conscience for peanuts. I sometimes wonder whether we are ready for power. Honorable Murtala, I'm so proud of you because I've demonstrated to show your loyalty to the party and the people from your constituency. It shall be well with you. That's Hamza sending that one. This one says, Senator, good morning to you. In fact, watching proceedings yesterday at Parliament, I was disheartened and totally lost in our MPs. But I know there are some good ones who stood by the party's decision. My regards to Comrade Murtala and Honorable Haruna Idrisu. This one sent from is from Tamale. Then this one says no one should even entertain these NDC MPs at all. Okay. Ghanaians will be having the shock of their life when these NDC MPs endorse the new CI, which the EC has brought before them. Mark my words. Even sent that from Appiah. Then this one from NS Bado, who says, Mr. Host, I had a broken heart yesterday after the announcement of the speaker. Okay. He is naming some people he says must be sacked from the party. Then there's this one. Murtala, don't blame the person who leaked your video. He has vindicated you. There's this one which says, I agree with Honorable and comment. It's God or Allah who gives and takes. The president can even act as the EC. When God or Allah said you will lose, it will be. God help us. Lawyer.
Yeah, so on a lighter note, I'll say that really Sodom Gomorrah, Jadim, confessional basa. Also, that's on a lighter note. On this issue of the EC and then the purported MPP member being appointed by His Excellency to be the commissioner, I think because of the seriousness of the issue, I would wish that we discuss this issue on a non-partisan basis, because see, what is at stake is the health of our very democracy. See, in 1992, after so many years in the wilderness, the people of Ghana decided that enough of dictatorship in whichever form or shape it takes. We were going to take upon ourselves a constitution. and we were going to be governed by that constitution, the rule of law, constitutional democracy, and we recognized that the best form that it had to take was in a multi-party shape. So essentially what it means that we are saying, look, so right now people's power, and we feel that the best way of doing it is to have different parties. So if let's form different parties and then let the people of Ghana then decide who will lead and who will become president and all. Now, we also recognized that for the system that we have chosen for ourselves to work, then there had to be arbiters or people who had to be neutral. They are like the referees. Because then, if you are going to practice a multi-party democracy, then there will be a need for election, and that elections could be contested by multiple people, and whatever the results are, everybody has to accept it. And for that to work, then we need a referee. And so our constitution also provided for what? An AC, and certainly somebody must appoint the AC. So powers were given. But you see, in the system of governance that we have taken upon ourselves, some people have to be partisan. I am partisan. My brother here is partisan. My auntie here is partisan. It's normal, because for this system to work, then certain people have to be partisan. In the same way, certain people cannot be allowed to be partisan. Is it in law or in justice? There's something that we say, that justice must not only be done, it must manifestly be seen to be done. So it is, for me, it is a similar attitude that I wish to take in who takes up certain roles, so who becomes EC. So whoever is EC, for the health of our democracy, you understand, and for the ultimate safety of all of us, for the peace that we are enjoying, then that person must not just be neutral and independent. That person must be manifestly be seen to be neutral. So when you have been given the power to appoint the EC, that should be one of the abiding principles as to who you choose or who you do not choose. Because we all agree here that yes, we belong to different parties, but we have one agenda, and that agenda is the well-being of Ghana. And the well-being of Ghana, beyond the economics and all, or let me say, even for the economy to grow, for us to grow economy, you need a certain platform. And that platform is a platform of peace, a platform where you can speak your mind, you can express yourself and not be afraid. So, because of these principles, I think that when an EC is being appointed, then that EC cannot have the color of party. The EC votes. So I don't believe in the neutrality of anybody, because the EC also votes. The EC also have a choice. But for us, for this system of governance that we have chosen ourselves, for it to work, and it is important that it works, irrespective of the fact that the EC votes, nobody should, as ordinarily, as in when in the proper sense of the word, I shouldn't be able to predict where the EC will vote. So on that basis, and I've seen videos. I don't know the person. I don't know if it's really, because the videos weren't clear. But if, let's say, the person isn't even a party, a card-bearing member, but goes on TV and then talks on behalf of the party, I think, for all intents and purposes, that person has taken himself away from the possibility of even being considered for an EC. So, like myself, all of us here, we cannot be appointed as ECs. Nobody should ever think of appointing me as EC. When I've come on air, I sit on platforms and everybody knows my color, my position. And then when the purpose of the position for which you are appointing the purpose is to serve as an arbiter, that you require, it is necessary that you are independent and neutral, then that principle, the same principle about justice. So it is not enough that you are neutral. You should manifestly be seen to be neutral. There cannot be any kind of perception that questions your neutrality. You understand? So yes, I've heard arguments that the president has the mandate to appoint, and the qualification is like parliament. It's like as though one of the persons, because what the law says that if you are qualified to be a parliamentarian, then you see, we should, when you read the qualification there, it's about you should be more than 20. You shouldn't have allegiance to any country. Those kind of things. But you see, and also you see, the law, every law or the constitution, as what has been espoused in so many cases, has a spirit, has a letter, but also has a spirit, and you can glean the spirit from the values of the people, but also from the purpose for which, let's say, that position was created. And the EC is a position, that's essentially like a referee in a football match. So if in a football match, so like England, all the referees are made to state the clubs they support. So that to the extent, so let's say I'm a Liverpool supporter. So let's say if a referee supports Liverpool, Liverpool's rivals are Manchester United, Everton. Yeah, you understand? So even if Everton are playing against somebody else, a referee that supports Liverpool will not be made to handle that match, because it is necessary that we create a system where people can freely accept results or elections results. You see, if you look critically at the pattern of our election results beyond after 96, most of our election results are so close that, but for the fact that we, the Ghanaians, we accept the fidelity of our voting, would have been in chaos. And one of the reasons why we accept is because we have never been put in a position where we can doubt the neutrality of the EC. And so I would take a principled position. My position is that if those videos are true, I don't know about Bossman, so I'll take it as a mere allegation. I don't know. Oh no, the point I'm trying to make is that but you have alleged it.
You should know.
I was in tech. So I could have known. I was in tech, so I could have known. So let's say it's an allegation. So I don't know about Bossman. I don't know about the EC, whether or not she's an activist. I don't think she's an activist. But what I'm saying is that if it's clear, and it shouldn't matter who, it's principle. You see, in life, when you follow principle, you make things easy. The fact that you have the power to appoint, you understand, also requires that you should understand that in your appointments, so the president can appoint so many people. You appoint ministers, you appoint you. For some of the appointments, there's a need for you to be partisan. You understand? If you're appointing a minister, you can't convince me that the so-called minister is the only person who is qualified. And maybe because of the policy you are playing, maybe you'll be partisan. But when you're appointing to certain positions like EC, even Shiraj, you cannot be partisan because of the roles that they are meant to play. Now, so I beg, as in, let us be clear. If it is the case, and if it is true, and I've seen videos, I'm saying the videos I've seen, it's not. But if indeed is the same person, then I beg, Mr. President, recall him, because we've, at least I remember times under PNDC. You understand? And I remember times under we cannot trade this our democracy, this our republic for anything. We must do everything in our power to protect the sanctity of this democracy. And that means that we cannot afford to appoint anybody who any shroud of doubt can be had as to their neutrality. Because what is at stake is the well-being of Greater Ghana. And on this issue, we can't be partisan. And if the appointee, the AC is MPP, then I beg, his appointment must be revoked and withdrawn. That's my position.
Thank you very much. Like I say, a lot of the messages still continue to be the first topic. Tete Ofori says, good morning, Senator. Please, with the greatest respect, I and 98% of the grassroots NDC are very deeply disappointed in most of our MPs, especially the cash out and stomach MPs, who are trying to make you and the leadership work difficult, and they will come to us asking for our support to go back, to betray us like this. We will bring in the youth and vote us 70% of NDC MPs. I cannot eat nor be of myself due to the total shock and disappointment I have seen most of the NDC MPs exhibited on the floor of Parliament. Kindly use your medium and to call them to order, because the division, betrayal and pretense is too much. Now my MPP brothers and sisters have made me a laughing stock. Please sir, the pain is too much and I don't know what to do. Since yesterday, I don't pay enough attention to my wife and daughter because I'm in complete shock. Please send for the appointment onto the Electoral Commission, the least said, the better. Kindly call the MPs to order. Unfortunately, I don't have such powers. There is some more answer who says NDC should concentrate on Mahama and forget about MPs. They can vote for MPP parliamentary candidates, because voting for NDC MPs is the same as voting for MPPPC. The value is the same. Okay. There's this one which says, Emmanuel Obing simply says, Madam is angry. It means JM is not happy. Felicity Ajiochri says, the appointment of MPP communicators to occupy position at the EC is an attempt by Akufo-Addo government to repeat what happened in Nigeria, in Ghana, the ruling party breaking the eight. There's Black Tiger who says, being in opposition is loyalty. That's why in the British and Canadian Parliament, it's called Majesty's Loyal Opposition. Where is the loyalty and gratitude from NDC members of Parliament? 2024, they can vote for themselves as MPs and get re-elected back to Parliament. Shaking my head. Okay. There's a lot more messages I have to go through, but I want to listen to Mrs. Mogtari first.
Sana, you know, it's a very, very somber morning. Yeah, very, very. Oh, but you know that. You can tell from all the people who are contributing to the show. I mean, it's very obvious, you know. It's not something that there's really no gainsaying, and we shouldn't take any vainglory positions about these things. You know the drill. Look, very interestingly that we're having this conversation today. A few days ago, our general chairman, or is it chairman general, arrived at a meeting. You know, I tell people all the time, every time you meet the general chairman or chairman general, look in his hands. He carries one interesting book or the other. On this occasion, he had one titled How Democracies Die by Stephen Levitsky and Daniel Ziblatt. And funny enough, it's a very modern take on how democracies die. We all know how we used to kill democracies. But listen to a very interesting thing that I took away that afternoon. And it reads, once a would-be authoritarian makes it to power, democracies face a second critical test. Will the autocratic leaders subvert democratic institutions or be constrained by them? Institutions alone are not enough to rein in elected autocrats. Constitutions must be defended by political parties and organized citizens, but also by democratic norms. Without robust norms, constitutional checks and balances do not serve as the bulwarks of democracy we imagine them to be. Institutions become political weapons, wielded forcefully by those who control them against those who do not. This is how elected autocrats subvert democracy, packing and weaponizing the courts and other institutions. Have you heard that? Packing and weaponizing. So we went through all the coup d'etats, all the different ways in which we literally arrest our democracy. But there's a better way, very strategic way in which elected leaders, persons who come to power through the same democratic processes, will use the same democracy to subvert all that is democratic in our environment. Start from the paragraph I have read. Watch all the things that have happened right up to this point where we can now go out there and appoint a total foot soldier to serve as a commissioner of the EC. Sena, if I woke up on Monday morning, for example, and President Mahama or President Akufo-Addo invited me to serve as a commissioner of the Electoral Commission, largely because they deem me qualified or competent so to do, I will gladly decline, because I am so partisan in a very public way that it will be difficult for me to even look within myself to invite a certain modicum of neutrality. You see, we've had persons who have served on the bench, for example, and have actually occupied other positions, even in politics. But you see, there's a way in which judicial jurisprudence is built, that there's many ways in which you can appeal, you know, a judge can recuse themselves. There are checks and balances. There are review mechanisms. There are times when someone brings you a brief even, and you look at the brief, you look at the facts, and evidently, it is not a matter that you want to handle. You understand? So when you come to the judicial parts of it, there is a way that it has a way that it sees itself up. But even then, when you have overly partisan individuals in place, you can tell how things would probably play out and how decisions would come up, all of that. But remember, where you have a leader who decides to weaponize these institutions or democratic institutions, this is the sort of thing that those leaders do. They are not people who come into the gun or through coup d'etats. No. They are individuals who take advantage of the same constitution, of the same democratic processes. But when they come in, they will weaponize all these institutions to serve an individual's parochial interests. And if we don't set up to fight them, you will see that these things become center stage. What are the norms and nuances that we are all speaking about? And Murtala said it beautifully, that nothing has been heard from the Christian Council. Of course not. Why would anything be heard? When you read about the things happening currently, I mean, these defeat completely. What? Article 45 tells us that what? It actually tries even to say that what? The EC must be an independent body. That we must all be guaranteed the independence of the EC. The lady in one of the pictures, I believe that Madam Salima Tijani, right? We are told that her whole family are long-standing members of the New Patriotic Party. I believe that even there's even a story that currently her mother serves in some other capacity, even within the New Patriotic Party, and she's going to the EC. Look, there is something that the late Bishop Derry used to say all the time. There are no neutrals. Not in tribe, not in politics. You know, generally it's very difficult to be neutral in some circumstances. Understandably, we all have our limits to what neutrality we can, you know, project. But I'm telling you, Senna, there is an effort, deliberately or otherwise, by President Akufo-Addo to weaponize all our constitutional institutions. In fact, even Parliament itself. You know what is going on today? They are exploiting the perceived divisions in our rank and file. They are also exploiting the perceived malleability of some of our members in Parliament and even the party. You can see that there is a certain strategic something to break our ranks for advantage for the New Patriotic Party. It is in our interest that we realize it very, very early and stem it very quickly before it destroys our party and destroys our democracy. Remember that the multi-party system is at the basis of the 1992 Constitution. And indeed, it ended all the coup d'etats and the unrest that we had been experiencing. It is why Parliament even saw the need to celebrate this particular framework for having sustained and nurtured our democracy up to this point. So we do have an elected officer, a man who otherwise, until he became president, was actually believed to be what? A purveyor, an aficionado, a student of politics and the rule of law. When President Jerry Rawlings introduced the VAT the first time, that is what propelled President Akufo-Addo to this level of popularity. And even then, outside the constitutional remit, President Rawlings decided to do what? To withdraw it, deepen his consultations, and come back. Why? CDD is no mean civil society organization. It is one of the most respected civil society organizations we have in Ghana. They have written extensively about the nature of the appointments that have just been made to the Electoral Commission. So if the individual who knows that his neutrality has been compromised one way or the other does not see the need to decline this appointment and accepts it, and other bodies within the same democratic dispensation speak out against it, and the president refuses to withdraw and swears them in. What is interesting and what actually lends credence to what we all learn from this book, How Democracies Die, is the speech he read at the swearing-in ceremony. Sana, then why do we need an electoral commissioner? Why do we need commissions? Why does the constitution go through the list of persons who actually should be, appointed to serve on the electoral commission from representative groups to reflect the generality of the people? It's the same with the Council of State. In fact, there's even a portion where some individuals are actually elected so that they can be people who are from different political parties and views, different, without, exactly, and yet allows the president to still nominate some. You understand? The whole basis for which we all celebrate democracy is for what? Divergent views, inclusion, lack of prejudice, bias, discrimination, all those things. In our hearts, it is very difficult to be neutral. But in our minds, there's a certain level of objectivity that we all expect. But of course, you cannot expect that when you make Murtala an electoral commissioner or chairman of the EC, that you expect that he will come there and then you tell us that, oh, he's a neutral. How is that possible? You understand? Look, there is a certain abuse of processes that we are currently experiencing, in which we must all condemn. There is also a certain creeping dissonance for voices that do not agree with the things that this government does or is doing. There is also a certain refusal even to take any criticisms on board. But what is even more disappointing is the silence of those who are deemed to have been advisors or persons who were consulted. So far, not one. I mean, even in the jury system, we have times when jurors come out and speak against a certain position, that maybe they did not agree with this. They even complain about how the judge probably led them in arriving at the conclusions they arrived at. One or two will definitely speak out about one thing or the other. We saw that in times past, under Professor Mills, under Jerry Rawlings, under John Mahama. Listen, the silence is deafening. Nobody, none of those who were consulted, none of the advisors, the videos are making the rounds, people are watching them, people are commenting, people are criticizing. There is a way in which if I were to speak today, and on Monday morning someone were to make me an electoral commissioner, someone will stand on that to say no. Naturally, everywhere in this world, in all democracies, people's speeches and things they've written and said have come to bear heavily on whether or not they were qualified as individuals to serve in some very significant positions. Ghana is not an exception. We don't practice democracy only in Ghana. The gains that we have made are totally being eroded by the nature of some of these appointments. I mean, think about it. We had Bosman Asari. We had all the, even on one of the panels, there was a debate. You should hear his contributions. It took, yes. People like that have no place. So when the president tells us that they are not going to collate, they are not going to be polling agents, they are not going to be, I mean, seriously. So you see, we used the ballot, we went and queued, we elected him all right, we used the same democratic processes, yes, but is the president indeed promoting the tenets of our democracy? Is he preserving the sanctity of our democracy? Is he protecting the future of our democracy? Or he is eroding for personal parochial interest all the democratic and constitutional bodies that were hitherto deemed at least to be occupied by persons of a certain level of independence? That is the question we should be asking. And that, I think, is what is lacking. It defeats everything that this Constitution says about appointments to the Electoral Commission. You just imagine the last election, for example, in 2020. How many times were numbers changed? For example, I'm not very good with numbers. Eventually, even we had our commissioner telling us that they had made a certain error and had corrected same. If you have EC commissioners whose objectivity cannot be trusted, whose neutrality even, as in the case of Dr. Appiah-Danquah, is not assured, and they serve on the Electoral Commission. Can you imagine post facto what can happen? So please, I think that if I were in the shoes of Dr. Appiah-Danquah, but of course, he has the example of Bosman Asari. Why should he be declining this appointment? Why should he say no? Why should he tell the president that, I'm sorry, but, people have exposed my partisanship, so maybe let's take someone else? Of course not. You understand? Naturally. Sana, I recommend this book as reading for all students of politics. Maybe if our persons in the media in particular, in the CSO, were to take some of these findings very seriously. Look at the list of persons who are employed at the office of government, for example. Just go and have a look. Scroll through the list. Look at some of the titles, the descriptions. Church relations, diasporan relations, what relations? Think about it. I'm surprised we don't even have someone for monitoring presidential gardens. I'm sure even that one is there. Because we saw the budget and you could see the gardens alone.
And someone
yes.
who's trying the handkerchief.
I'm telling you. Yes, especially those ones that he carries around. You understand? Look, we are jeopardizing this very, very fragile democracy of ours. We are even ridiculing, to the best of my knowledge, most of these institutions that were hitherto seen in a certain objective light. Murtala spoke about how Madame Charlotte was literally chased out of office. In fact, one of the accusers was eventually penciled for a court of appeal position, right? There was a huge outcry. You understand? One of the key witnesses is the one that was eventually made a Public Procurement Authority's chief executive officer, who is himself today being investigated. We heard what the first special prosecutor said about lack of funds and funding, lack of transparency and accountability, his inability even to undertake his job. We remember what happened in the opinion for Ajapa, for example. We saw what the then Attorney General, Madame Gloria Kufu, put out. What happened? In recent times, we've seen the current Attorney General even come out to chastise and criticize the Auditor General. Think carefully about an elected leader weaponizing our institutions, the same constitutional institutions, they're subverting the course of the same constitution and using the rights and discretions within that constitution given to the executive to literally reduce all of these bodies largely to very partisan or subjective voices. But you see, I don't want our party people to be demoralized. And I don't want to discourage anybody. There is only one assurance, that just as Madame Charlotte declared the election in 2016 for President Akufo-Addo, so shall this current Electoral Commission declare the results for the NDC and for President Mahama come 2024. I have no doubt in my mind. I can tell that the mood in the country is that we've had enough of President Akufo-Addo, enough of the corruption, enough of the partisanship, enough of the family and friends, and that he read that speech at the swearing-in ceremony is within itself telling and profound that the president simply is not sensitive to the times, literally doesn't care about the pronouncements he makes, and simply will not listen to any voices of dissent or criticism for that matter, and will tell us to the face. Why do people tell us to look for polling agents who cannot be bought? Why are they telling us today to look for members of parliament who cannot be bought? Why are we expecting to go out there and elect leaders for our party, from the constituency to the wards, to the branches, to the region, who are steadfast and will stand with the party? Why are we going through all of these exercises? You understand? It is the responsibility of a president who swears an oath of office under the Constitution, for example, to undertake to carry out his mandate in accordance with the tenets of the Constitution. But what do we have? You find situations where even some of these matters go to court. The courts will endorse the position. We are still awaiting a ruling from the Supreme Court on a matter to do with emoluments or payment of allowances to the first and second lady. We waited for a very long time. We're still waiting. So look critically at how institutions, constitutional institutions, are being weaponized, all in the interest of serving one individual's parochial interest. But I'm telling you, the same constitution that saw the change of guard and stewardship, the same constitution that will bring in the NDC led by President John Mahama. Make no mistake and make no doubt, I will continue to motivate, to encourage the rank and file, the generality of the people, that change is good for everybody. And when you elect a leader and you can tell that he is no longer working in accordance with the tenets of the Constitution, you ought to elect to vote that leader out of office. There is a certain state capture that has made it almost impossible for people to criticize as they used to. Even that will come to an end. Because you see, Ghanaians have chosen the path of democracy freely and are at liberty on any day to change their members of parliament, to change their presidents. You understand? No matter who serves on the EC, the NDC stands very tall. And like I said, do you know that members of the EC, some of the commissioners even, are part of the beneficiaries under Article 71, office holders? Yes, on ex gratia. The chair of the EC and the deputies, the chair of the NCC. How many people forget? It's not just the members of parliament or the executive. There is a whole list. And all of these people, what was the reasons why we even went out and the framers even put this in the Constitution? The reason was simple. You'll be independent, you will not be on the take, and to ensure that there's transparency and accountability. So you know that you retire on your full salary. You know that you receive this allowance when you leave office. Are these things still relevant even today? So President Mahama is right. And the persons who went round on the work of the Constitutional Review Commission, this is one of the key things that was raised by the good people of Ghana about ex gratia and the executive. So if we now have party foot soldiers, spokespersons, communicators of the new Patriotic Party now serving as commissioners, why do we still need to maintain them on the list of persons who are beneficiaries under Article 71, Senna? You understand? So I think that we're in very uncertain waters. We are living through very difficult times. What we expect is a certain sensitivity relative to the challenges we are all going through. But I think that it is time that we all look our government, President Akufo-Addo, his Vice President Bawumia, you understand, let's look them in the face and speak truth to power and stop majoring on the minors. The president knew what he was doing. He understood and appreciated what was going on. Some checks had actually been conducted even, because usually they do all these background checks and they submit a report. He knew the things that were going to come up as soon as that announcement was made. Why were they sworn in so quickly? There must be a good reason. Even in his tone, you could sense there was a certain exigency to the whole process. How do you then tout my integrity? And how do I uphold my integrity or credibility when I have actually been, at one point in time, a government spokesperson to serve on the Electoral Commission of Ghana? That must be condemned, Senator.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Lawyer Appiah-Danquah, you have attracted the attention of Kojo Chumbuafo. He says I should tell you, please tell lawyer Appiah-Danquah that it's too late to pontificate about what should be seen to be done and what shouldn't. When Akufo-Addo brazenly created trumped-up charges to remove Charlotte Osei, the person who gave evidence against her is now on trial for stealing. That injustice has never been seen to be reversed. In a nutshell, I want to be EC chair. In fact, I am lobbying for it. Ask Joyce. Says Lawyer Appiah-Danquah, picture it now. Kojo Chumbuafo, EC chair. What a wonderful world it will be. That's coming from Kojo Chumbuafo. This is Solomon Agbonahewe, who says some of our stomach NDC MPs have done it again. After disappointing us in approving non-performing ministers last time around, the NDC and full soldiers must thoroughly conduct background checks on future parliamentary candidates before approving them to stand for elections. We are tired and disappointed in these moves. Israel Bina Sesena is the guy in the video Abronye's brother. So Nanado is now appointing comics into electoral office. Edward Dubazan says, in Britain, most public servants are not only neutral but apolitical. Integrity is the best ingredient in any vibrant democracy. There's a lawyer who is also joining us. Yesterday, I was so disappointed with the NDC MPs. Very useless. They were only thinking about their position, not we, the voters. Maria Adams says MPP should as well declare themselves winners before the 2024 elections. There's this one. Okay, there's Eric Okusefano says, our Electoral Commission had been compromised by Nana Akufo-Addo and the MPP, had become Jubilee House and NES. There's Felicity Ajay Ocho who says, well said, Madam Joyce Bawah, solid submission. There's Abu Lawe who says, due to the MPs, some families in Ghana lost their loved ones during the elections. Dawuda Ibrahim Brahima, instead of blaming dissenting members, research into what led to the action they took. What's happened is history today. Maria Adams, the NDC MPs even voted yesterday for the judge going into the Supreme Court who campaigned in 2016 openly for the MPP. Osman says, believe it or not, those inward-looking and greedy section of the NDC minority will repeat that unthinkable when they vote for the CI. What a party. Samuel James Aholu says, why blaming NDC MPs alone? What about MPP MPs too? They are also Ghanaians. Who knows the plight of Ghanaians? Okay, there's is it Wian Cool who says, excellent presentations that end in the studios. How many people in the villages and hamlets get informed by all these flamboyant talks? They do not understand what's going on and do not have the equally measured anger. Change or improve your strategies. Let me do a few messages from our YouTube page because we have quite a couple of people watching us on YouTube, and many people watching us on YouTube page. On our YouTube page, I want to go through some of the messages that are coming in from YouTube on the discussions we'll be having so far and what they think. These are some of the comments we are seeing. Okay. This is some messages from YouTube. This is Nana Kwesia. How come the MPP MPs always follow and do what their party wants, although majority of Ghanaians are against it? Ghanaians want Oforiatta changed, but you did not remove him because of a party cause. There's this one that is difficult to read. There's Eben Mensah says majority of MPs are there for themselves, not for Ghana. You have to know. Richard Bandi, how can some few NDC MPs hurt millions of Ghanaians this way? December Queen, we will not forgive our MPs this time around. All of you must go. I'm pained. There's Daniel Opinta who says, my sister, don't waste your energy. Even Howard, not Howard, is Howard Kumsen got the highest votes. Opposition forever. There's no money in the system yet to approve more systems, more ministers. Jacob Blessing, enemy within NDC and Ghana. Shame to all of them. they'll reap it soon. There's Nyamako who says NDC MPs have disgraced themselves. How do we trust them? People are putting their lives on the line. There's also Abdul Rahman Time Ibrahim. This is very simple. Just get the names of the MPs and kick them out. Or also charge them huge before voting for them. And the Zuta, NDC MPs are not serious. And you guys will pay for this. Mazola Tugum is saying a good morning to us. The party hierarchy must investigate this misconduct and bring it to book. Send that from Garo. There's Alote Boaten who is also joining us. John Mahama has a lot of work to do with us in the NDC. So sad for Ghana. No hope. So those are just some of the messages coming from YouTube. I think we have to conclude on this note because we are 37 minutes past 11, which means we have about 23 minutes to close today's show. And so the last issue we might have to look at is a matter of the NDC's True State of the Nation's address that was delivered by the Chairman General, where problems were identified, solutions preferred. One of them was supposed to be MPs voting against the president's nominated ministers, but that didn't pan out. Anyway, I'll start with Murtala again. Today, I'm starting with you always. On this matter of the True State of the Nation's address, you have less than 10 minutes. Yes, so please, Ramon.
Well, the president is supposed to fulfill a constitutional obligation as stated in, I think, in Article 67 of the 1992 Constitution, that he must address Parliament at the beginning of the session and before the end of that session. And the reason why the president addresses Parliament is that he needed to have addressed the people of this country, and it will be impossible for the president to gather 32 million Ghanaians to tell us the state of Ghana. So he does so through the people's representative. The reason why the president, in my opinion, also need to be sincere to the good people of this country, because he is in a privileged position, a position that he has first-time information and perhaps accurate information as to the true state of Ghana. The president should be the person who has a true information as to the finances of this country, information about the true nature of our security, information even on social issues. To that extent, he owes the citizens a duty to tell them the truth about Ghana and nothing but the truth. Unfortunately, when the president appeared before Parliament to fulfill this constitutional obligation, he ended up telling us half-baked truth, and to be honest, with all sincerity, sometimes outright lies. And I would enumerate some of the lies the president told the people of this country. When the president appeared before Parliament, he said that he constructed more roads than the NDC. And in fact, he didn't only limit it to NDC. He said that he constructed more roads than any government in this country. I thought that if he hated NDC so much, at least President Kufuor was seated there, and he should have been a bit sensitive to what President Kufuor's feeling would be should you say that you constructed more roads than President Kufuor. And again, I want to look at some of the roads he said he constructed. I will just use 2 minutes. I may not be able to read through the entire route constructed. And what I'm reading is from budget statements presented to the Parliament of Ghana. And they include budget statement presented by Honorable Setekpe and budget statement presented by the current incompetent Minister for Finance, who is only there because he uses Oforiata. And I'm going to provide you that budget statement, the paragraph number, the page, and the number of roads, the types of roads constructed. So if you look at 2009, which is captured in the 2010 budget statement, because you must report what you did the previous year. 2010 budget statement, and you check in paragraph 362, paragraph 365, and paragraph 370. the number of trunk roads constructed was 108 kilometers trunk roads. Feeder roads, 869 kilometers. Urban roads, 1,416 kilometers. So you have a total of 2,393 kilometers. Same can be said in the 2010 as captured in 2011 budget statement. So I'll come to the total, number of roads done under President Mills, President Mahama. So between 2009 to 2012, the total kilometers of roads constructed. And when I say roads constructed, I'm not referring to re-graveling and re-asphalting, and that's not what I'm talking about. The total roads constructed under President Mills, President Mahama, was 9,553.22 kilometers. And these things are all captured in the budget statement. And mind you, when the Minister for Finance is presenting the budget, he starts by saying that he's presenting this budget for and on behalf of the President. So the budget statement is the budget of the President, not the Minister for Finance. Now let's come and look at 2013 as captured in 2014 budget statement. And you look at paragraph 578, trunk roads 21 kilometers, feeder roads 374 kilometers, urban roads 13 kilometers. You have a total of 408 kilometers. That was 2013. Now let me come to 2016. As captured in paragraph 506, trunk roads 137 kilometers, feeder roads 479 kilometers, urban roads 642 kilometers, total of 1,256 kilometers. So if you take between 2013 to 2016, total kilometers of roads constructed by President Mahama was 5,995 kilometers. Now add the 5,995 kilometers to the 9,553 kilometers. That will give you almost 16,000 kilometers. Is that not it? 5,995 plus 9,553. That will give you almost 16,000 kilometers. Now, let's look at the roads constructed by President Nanado, because I'm virtually using 8 years of the NDC and virtually the 8 years of MPP used. Now, even if I don't want to even go to the 8 years NDC used, let me just take what President Mills, President Mahama did, or take what President Mahama did between 2013 to 2012. Now, President Nanado, between 2017 to 2020, and captured in 2018 budget statement. Paragraph 531, you have trunk roads 199 kilometers, feeder roads 205 kilometers, urban roads 295, you have 699 kilometers. Total, that is between 2017 to 2020, President Nanado constructed 431 kilometers. That's the 4 years. Now look at what President Mahama did between 2013 to 2016, total of 5,995. I'm even leaving what Prof. Mills, President Mahama did. Now I'm looking at what President Mahama did between 2017 to 2016. That is 5,995 kilometers. And that of President Nanado between 2017 to 2020, 4,331 kilometers. So even President Mahama constructed more roads than President Nanado. Prof. Mills, President Mahama constructed more roads than President Nanado. Now let's look at the recent ones, and that one anybody can Google. 2021, as captured in 2022 budget statement. Paragraph 867. Trunk roads 162 kilometers. Feeder roads 412 kilometers. Urban roads 262 kilometers. Total of 836 kilometers. So between 2021 to 2022, the total number of kilometers of roads constructed was 2,122 kilometers. Yet you have a president, and what I have just read was presented to Parliament by Ken Oforiatta, indicating the roads that they constructed. The president was aware of this, yet he looked into our miserable faces and lied to us. Again, the president said that the reason why Ghana is struggling is because he inherited debts. When I was watching it, I didn't know whether I needed to cry or laugh. Because everybody knows that you have borrowed more than any other government. In fact, President Mahama inherited a debt of a little over 120 billion. It was 122.1 billion. And 11 between the time President Mahama took over, President Mahama added to our debt portfolio a little over 40 billion. That 40 billion includes the regional hospitals, includes the circle interchange, includes the phase 1 of the Pokwasi interchange, includes the phase 1 of the Obechebelamte interchange, include the phase 1, include the University of Ghana Medical Center, include the Rich Hospital, include the Eastern Corridor, include virtually everything President Mahama did with 40 billion. Now, President Nanado, as we see today, has borrowed over 480 billion. Yet he looked into our faces and says that don't blame me because I met debt. Again, President Mahama left to this president a debt to GDP a little over 60%. Today, debt to GDP is 104%. He left to this president inflation of 15%. Today, inflation is over 50%. President Mahama left again to this government, but dollar to the cedi at 3.4, 3.7. Today, dollar to the cedi is around 13 cedis. But you see, to conclude, President Nanado said, don't blame me, blame COVID. And that COVID and Ukraine, every government experiences external shocks. Under the NDC, a barrel of crude of oil rose to almost $140. In fact, President Mahama bequeathed to this government 2 additional oil wells. President Mahama, as a matter of fact, with all the challenges we had in this country, President Mahama and none of our neighbors, in fact, let me make this point because they blame COVID and Ukraine. None of our neighbors borrowed $3 billion from the IMF in the name of COVID. None of them borrowed $450 million from the World Bank in the name of COVID. None of them dipped their hands into their central bank to take huge sums of money. But by the way, what is the best way to manage COVID than preventing lives from being lost? Many people died in Ghana than they died in Nigeria. And I'll just conclude on this. Nigeria, as of September, 3,155 people died in the name of COVID. Ghana, as of September, 1,455 people died in the name of COVID. Togo, as of September, 275 people died in the name of COVID. Burkina, even as of today, in Burkina, you had 695 people who died in the name of COVID. Now, if you look at the raw figures, Nigeria has about 3,155, isn't it? Ghana 1,455. Now, juxtapose it against the population. If you work out the percentage, 3,155 against 200 million people, that gives you 0.001%. Now, take Ghana's one, 1,455 against 13 million, it gives you 0.005%. Take that of Togo and Burkina. For Burkina, if you take their figure against 20.1 million people, it will give you lesser percentage, 0.001%. So it means that many people died in Ghana than they died in Togo, than they died in Burkina, than they died in Ivory Coast, than they died in Nigeria. So why should you now say that the reason why we are having these challenges because of COVID? We were given free water, free electricity. Now, but do you know we are being made to pay for the free water and free electricity in the name of COVID levy? Okay. Do you know that?
Thank you. Thank you. I have to jump to lawyer.
But I've taken more than that. For my auntie, I can take it.
So, listen. I know my brother here has spoken about Mahama, about Nanado, and for me the matter is simple. You see, in spite of everything that John Mahama he claims did, and we were all in Ghana, we saw the doings and everything. At the end of the day, in 2015, we went to the economic hospital. That was the 16th time we've been to the economic hospital. In last year, you understand, Ghana went to the economic hospital again. That was the 17th time we've been to the economic hospital. Now, on average, since we had independence, every 4 years we go to the economic hospital, and every 4 years, or for all the 17 times we've been there, it's the same issues. You have your debt levels are what's called
unsustainable.
Unsustainable. Your macroeconomics are gone. You understand? See, when you talk about debt to GDP, what's called ratio, I can mention a lot of countries like Japan, where debt to GDP ratio is in excess of 287%, and yet their economic isn't sick. See, the point I'm trying to make is that, see, when you do the same things, and you go to a hospital all the time, and you keep on doing the same thing, then there's something fundamentally wrong with our economy. So when the NDC gave the true state of the economy, for me, and this for me not look at it from an NPP perspective, but for me also as a Ghanaian, and for me it was like playing back the same old playbook. You understand? Come and play, because MPP also did the true state of the economy when we were in opposition. For me, the issue is simple. If you've been to the IMF for 17 times, whether NPP, whether NDC, it tells me that what we need in this country right now is a radical shift from how we run our economy. And I didn't see that change, because you see, people, you are talking about change. Change for me is not necessarily a change of party. What kind of change of ideas? What kind of change of policy? What kind of change of vision are you giving us? Because Mahama has spoken about His Excellency John Mahama, has spoken about the ex gratia what's called issue and all those issues. Fortunately, His Excellency has been the president of Ghana. When he was president, we know the work that his predecessor did about the constitutional reforms. You had the opportunity for 4.5 years. You didn't attempt to do the ex gratia what's called issue. And there's nothing about whatever he said that represents the radical change that we need.
Talking about the executive, which he has control over.
No, I'm talking about what I'm trying to talk is says concerning the economy. You understand? At the end of the day, whatever he did in 2015, whatever Nando himself has done here, we have gone to the IMF, and for me, I don't. The point is that we are doing something which is fundamentally wrong. So then, for me, what I'm looking at is what is His Excellency Mahama bringing, which represents that radical change in focus that our economy needs. And I don't see that in his communication, in anything he's saying. Indeed, the only person in this country right now that I've heard give a proposal, you understand, give a vision that represents that radical change that we need is Alan John Kojo Chamantin's great transformation. No, but he's not president. He's not part of it. He's not president. The only person that has said anything that represents the kind of radical change we need isn't the great transformational speech that Alan John Kojo Chamantin gave, because that is what we need. We need a radical change, and it's not about the party. It's about the vision. It's about the focus. It's about the direction. We need an economy where government will take its hands from everything. You see, we are running because see when we all go to IMF, because we have a problem with the fiscal side of our economy. It's sad that we all don't have time, because you see, when you break down the economy to its various forms, and then you see it as producing, consuming, and then the supply of money, then you question yourself, when this bond issue came out, you understand, and if you recognize that to produce, to consume, you need money, and government or the banks are giving over 70% of all the monies available to them, to the government. So now, therein lies our problem. If the system we have created for ourselves is a system where government, and when I say government here, it's not about MPP, it's not about the NDC, because in that regard, nothing changes. When there was a situation where the bonds or the loans, because bonds are essentially debt, which are supposed to be the most secured, and if they are the most secured, it means that their interest rate must be the lowest. But the government has put that interest rate so high that the banks think that they are better off giving all those monies to government at the expense of private sector. Okay. Senna, the time is short, so not to speak to one. But therein lies our problem. And unless we have a program, a strategy that will radically change that, a program that will ensure that that monies, those credits, find their ways into private sector, into businesses, to transform, to cause a transformation in terms of increasing productivity and also then increasing consumption. Then say now, you see, we can talk all the politics, we can do all the politics that we are doing. I can predict that if you don't change things, it doesn't matter whichever party comes into power, in about 4 years after 2025, we'll go back to the
The only change is to change this government.
No, the only change is to change the way we think and do things.
I'm happy that my brother here has actually tried very hard to indicate what in his mind needs to be done. But Senna, why was President Mahama going on this huge industrialization drive? Why did he go on that huge infrastructure drive? Why did he keep positing about the need for us to restructure this country's economy? Remember that at the time when President Mahama came into office, the World Bank itself had stated that for Ghana to cure its unemployment, there was a need for us to do what? To build into our infrastructure deficit. So it wasn't as if he just woke up in the morning and decided that this is the way I want to go. But this was also research-based. That apart, but for the recklessness, the wastage, the kinky and wache parties, the stealing, and you have a finance minister who was bold enough to stand on the floor of Parliament and tell us that his company alone earned about 156 million in transaction fees from Eurobonds that he himself was going around promoting, marketing, and selling to bring debt to Ghana to invest in our project so that he can do what? Rake in a profit. What other comments can either of us or either one of us even put out here? That's one. Secondly, look where our debt stock has come from and where it is today. Look at where the economy is. All the credit rating agencies have now declared Ghana what? Insolvent, bankrupt, and completely useless. And we are still talking. What was it that President Akufo-Addo promised to come and do? Vice President Bawumia was supposed to what? An economic what? Whiz kid. Yeah. Now what is he? He's now a him boy. Going and paying rented crowds to be singing praises for him to do jobs that he had unable to do.
Him boy.
You cannot be taller than what God has given you. No matter what praises people heap on you, the reality is that you look in your pocket, you look around us. The performance has been what? Abysmal. They have failed on all the key indicators, on everything they promised, and continue to weaponize recklessly our institutions too. It started with the banks. They totally destroyed all the confidence in our banks. And today, he's a hymn boy. Renting crowds to sing from the hymns that he's putting out. You understand? And look where we are today. 600 billion is where our debt stands today. For the first time, Ghana is defaulting on paying what? Its debts. The same banks that we said we were using money to go and do rationalization. As we sit today, how many of those banks will survive? For the first time in our history, we are asking investors to take what? Haircuts. We were told that we will never go to the IMF, and that to pass e-levy was also to prevent us from going to the IMF. What has happened today? Today, our finance minister is in China, holding meetings behind closed doors in secret. You were celebrating the success of Euro bonds oversubscription, something that historically, once the markets are open, when have you known Ghana to go on this sort of drive and come back with empty hands? And yet they came and bought Wachi and Kinky, taking pictures like children at a parade, trying very hard to make everybody look like some person who didn't know what they were about. I mean, can you imagine that? Charlie, we've reduced governance to mediocrity and we continue to celebrate it. Where is the chorus about building the economy from production to whatever to production?
To production.
Where is that that you are going to arrest the dollar? Where is all of that? Even Bank of Ghana.
He's a fugitive now.
Bank of Ghana has now been reined into the criminality of this government and printing monies against the rules and regulations of this country. When Atufosun first talked about the monies being printed, what happened? Has the evidence not come in the form of the budget? You know, look, Sana, I pray for one thing, that Ghanaians would look critically at persons who put themselves up to be elected into office, be they members of parliament, flag bearers, or leaders of the various political parties. Let's look at their values, their ethics, and their track record. I know that every time you meet our opponents on these stations, you talk about Dumso. Senna, it wasn't President Mahama who was turning the switch on and off for the power to go off. Dumso had been with us since when? 2004, right? It was part of climate change. We had challenges with these things because of the change in the rain patterns. President Kufuor's solution was to pray and build the Bui Dam. Today, have you heard about people proposing that even the Bui Dam should be collapsed? Because in the face of the independent power producers, all the Bui Dam no longer plays any role. The Abazi thermal plant went through a very, terrible fire outbreak a few days ago. These are the challenges that we are currently, and everybody is wondering. I hope this doesn't generate Dumso or lead to Dumso. Today, we are even being told that we will no longer export the power that is left from what the independent power producers are giving us. We were told. You see, Senna, let's vet what the New Patriotic Party feeds to the general populace. People should learn to investigate some of the things they say, some of the promises they make. When we start arguing about one district, one dam, we're told there were dugouts. Indeed, there are dugouts. We've seen them filled with mud and clay. Water not fit even for our animals to drink. Senna, the whole scorecard of this government is the score worse than fail. The most abysmal in the history of this country. However you say it, whatever you do. It is the reason why they must weaponize all our institutions and politicize them, beef them up with very partisan people. But let me state it, that inshallah, for as long as we have God and that we are alive and in good health, the NDC, led by President John Mahama, will be sworn into office.
Inshallah.
First and foremost, to right the wrongs of this administration. Secondly, to listen and do for Ghanaians exactly what it is they want to do. I think that should be our clarion call to the many supporters and Ghanaians who are hoping and praying for change from this sort of autocratic experience that we are all living. And the hardship now is completely unbearable, coupled with all the unnecessary speeches, promises that they never intend to keep. And certainly the option or solution cannot be President Akufo-Addo, his Vice President Bawumia, or any of those people in that ship that has currently sunk completely. We even need to get into a salvage exercise, because right now, going to China is just to go and do what? Try and salvage our very low image. The coffers are empty. The same finance minister who was talking down to us with Wache and Kenke today is telling us that we didn't get a solution from the IMF by March ending. March has ended. Today he's begging in China and the doors are shut. Do you remember the videos of Vice President, then candidate Vice President Bawumia holding the bowl in China? Where is all of that? You know, Senna, let's pray for honest leaders, modest leaders, leaders with enormous discipline, leaders who are sensitive and sympathize with us as a people. And I believe that if we all work hard, John Dramani Mahama can build the Ghana we want. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. This one is from KK, who says all the 136 minority MPs should bow their heads in shame. The NDC as a party must sit up, because if care is not taken, they would have worse situations moving forward. There are people who do not know where their next meal or rent is coming from, but have managed to pick forms to contest. Imagine what will happen if they win and go to parliament. Every little coin they will take and make such backward decision. Ghana is disappointed in them. There's Prince Henry Koforidua, whose message I wanted to read. Prince Henry celebrated his birthday yesterday, but he's one of the people who send me messages regularly. And he sent this message a bit early. I'll find it. This is what he said. Greed, selfishness, and personal interest over larger interest. I'm highly disappointed in the NDC MPs who voted to approve the minister yesterday in Parliament. There will be a revolution against those NDC MPs who went against the decision of the party and the call of most Ghanaians for the minority to shoot down Nana Akufo-Addo's elephant size of government. The future is pregnant. The NDC can disappoint Ghanaians. Come 2024, it must do the right thing by getting and punishing those MPs who voted to approve Nana Akufo-Addo's nominees yesterday. We continue to make the work for communicators very cumbersome and decisions like this. Prince Aaron Koforido has sent that one. I'm told I can give you each 2 minutes to discuss our last topic. It looks like for the very first time on Alhaji&Alhaji, we're going through all our topics this morning. And so this one has to do with that's allegation from the Alan Chomantin camp that the MPs that follow Dr. Bawumia and Kumasi were given appearance fees. This one I'll start with you because this is your domain squarely.
This is your domain.
2 minutes.
And so, so you see, for whatever reason, an impression is being given that the MPs support His Excellency the Vice President. At the last Akukusidai, as in information that came out was there was some information that said 90 MPs followed him. I heard elsewhere that there were about 80. I listened to, as in I watched that Akukusidai itself, and officially the numbers that purportedly followed him were 31 MPs. Now, but you see, for me the issue is I don't know if I can tell that we are not worried that certain MPs are following His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. You all know that I'm an avowed Democrat. So if I have a right to support Alan, certain MPs also have a right to support His Excellency Dr. Mahmoud Bawumia. For me, from where I sit and from how I see things, why would His Excellency want to make the whole Ghana believe that he has the MPs' support? After all, the Electoral College for the election of the flag bearer constitutes over 200,000 people. But so then, why would His Excellency want us to believe that he has the MPs? For me, I think that it is an act of desperation. That's how I see it. Because I think His Excellency looks at, or the people around him, they look at the product they are going to sell, and they consider, do we have a good product? Do we have a product that has some credibility? Do we have a product that can stand on the strength of the product itself? And for me, I think the answer is no. So they think that probably they must draw on the so-called influence of certain MPs. See, what is going to happen is, I said it earlier, that the 2024 election is a change election. The election we are going in 2024 is a change election, and it will be suicidal on the part of the party to bring a candidate that does not represent change. As in 2024 election is going to be run on credibility. I told you, you see, the way things are going, the way we, the politicians, have done things for a very long time. See, if we don't change the way things are done, very soon we will be chased. You yourself, you've seen the heat being put on the NDC, what's called MPs. Yeah, because right now, in 2024, credibility will be an issue. In 2024, the character of the candidate will be an issue. And so, I'm sure the handlers of His Excellency have weighed the product. I haven't heard any version coming from them. All we are hearing is a lot of tribal and religious bigotry. You understand? And also an attempt to make people believe that the MPs are behind him. I can say that for us, we have a solid candidate who passes the test of credibility, who passes the test of character, and who represents the will of majority of the people within the MPP. That in going to an election where, if you are going to be honest, we are not the favorites. If you are going to be honest with yourself, that means that we must present a candidate who is strong, a candidate who at least represents some character and credibility, who also has a very strong message, a message that represents the radical change that we need. Okay. And that candidate is Alan John Kojo-Chemantin, and we are going to present him. It doesn't matter. You see, I'm not saying the MPs are not necessarily supporting, but even if supposing they are all supporting him, we have over 200 delegates who know what is good for the party, and they know that what is good for the party at this point in time is Alan John Kojo-Chemantin, and the one we are.
I wish I could end on that note, but I have to take views from. No, that's fine. Yeah, very brief.
I think that is very clear. The MPP is a party of bribing people. So now they are now bribing their own people, bribing NDC MPs to take a decision for them. So the bribe has gone even beyond bribing NDC MPs, as it has been alleged, to bribing their own people to participate in activities. But as to whether candidate Alan Chirmantin should be insulated from the mess, I really think that it will be a very difficult thing to surmount, because first and foremost, he is one of the members of the solid team. And when they said he was a member of the solid team, he never said no. So he must accept every problem that they are facing. And that is why the NDC case is even more compelling, that we have a moral duty and a responsibility to salvage this country. And the only way we can do that is by voting out these people in 2024 elections.
Thank you. Ms. Mogtari.
I have said it already.
Hello, Adam.
None of the individuals who are currently preening and prancing, trying very hard to follow themselves, to promote themselves as viable alternatives to President Akufo-Addo, deserve even a cursory look by the good people of Ghana. When they were accusing President John Mahama and his administration of all the lies that they told, I don't remember them singling out anybody as being different, you understand? They practically lumped everybody together and did whatever it was they wanted to do just because they wanted to win power. Almost 8 years later, and of course in under 2 years to the end of their term, every Ghanaian in Ghana knows that President Akufo-Addo and Vice President Bawumia have failed woefully and miserably. That due to their recklessness, their wastage, and total disregard for different opinions, they have brought themselves to the abyss in which we all find ourselves. They have no reason whatsoever. Look, Vice President Bawumia should bow his head in utter shame for even daring to put himself up and even thinking that he would even be given the nod by the good people of Ghana. I don't know what is happening in the NPP. That is their cup of tea. We are not necessarily interested. But when we look at President Akufo-Addo, when we look at Vice President Bawumia, do you know, Senator, there's only one thing about 2016 that never leaves me. When our now current second lady had the nerve even to call President Mahama names, she crossed a line that nobody in Ghana had ever crossed. Their desperation for aggrandizement was palpable even then, and nothing has changed. All the 138 members of parliament can follow President Bawumia to his kitchen. He will still lose the election. Everybody in the NPP can follow him to his wife's boudoir. He will still lose the election. I am not a member of the NPP, so I don't know what their internal dynamics are. But judging by the failings of our economy, the hardship they have bestowed upon us, the difficulties in which we find ourselves, Vice President Bawumia does not even deserve my mention, let alone any analysis from me as an individual or citizen of this country. For all the accusations and lies he told the good people of Ghana, I'm looking forward to him manning up, taking responsibility for his share in the difficulty in which we find ourselves. I said he is now a choir boy, a hymn boy, begging and hiring people such as 50 or 60 MPs, for example, and whoever is available to be rented to follow him and give him the leverage that his work has been unable to give him. I do not have to even make a pronouncement on Vice President Mahmoud Bawumia. The records are there and they speak loudly, clearly and boldly that he is unfit to put himself up even to contest for the flag bearership of the NPP, let alone go out there and call on Ghanaians to elect him as president. Okay. The earlier he saves the little money he has, the better it will be for him.
Thank you. Thank you very much. It seems Musa Abatua and Engineer Kojo Chumbuafo are the only people who send me messages regularly who are not disappointed. Because this is Musa Abatua's message. The recent EC appointment by the President Akufo-Addo means tomorrow Chairman Asiedu Nketsiah can become an EC boss. So now we shouldn't lose sight of the fact that winning an election is a process and not an event. So the popular phrase, the elections are won at polling stations, is not entirely true. The CI that guided an election can contribute to give undue advantage to one party or the other. Let me also announce that we're supposed to have been joined by Nana Ofori-Owusu, who is the national chairman of the Progressive People's Party. Unfortunately, he had a health emergency. That's why you didn't see him here. So he apologizes sincerely for his inability to be on the show today. And let me say a happy birthday to Fenoku Stephen. Fenoku Stephen is an aspirant one of those who want to dethrone Honorable Kobna Mensah Oyema in South Tong. Happy birthday to you, and happy birthday to the Greater Accra Regional Organizer of the NDC. If Facebook is right, today is your birthday, Anthony Nupenu. So a happy birthday to you. Belated happy birthday to Mrs. Betty Moldridriso, former Attorney General, former Minister of Education of Ghana. Belated happy birthday to you. Let me say a big thank you to lawyer Appiah-Danquah, who is a member of the communications team of the new Patriotic Party. Clearly, from what you heard him say, he's also a keen supporter of the Alhaji&Alhaji campaign. And of course, a big thank you to Honorable Comrade Ibrahim Murtala Mohammed, Member of Parliament for Tamale Central. And always a pleasure to have Mrs. Joyce Bawah Mogtari in the studio join us this morning. We are back same time next week with another edition of the show. Until then, enjoy your weekend. Have a fruitful week. And do take care of yourself.
He has labored, he has suffered to lead his people into the land of freedom. He is the Redeemer. He has labored.